Okay, why don't we get started? I'd like to welcome everyone present today and those watching the broadcast and call the October 24th, 2017 regular meeting to order with all board members present. And first, let's please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and the Navy JROTC Color Guard from Patrick Henry High School will now present the colors. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Patrick Henry High.
Thank you, Patrick Henry High School.
That's right. Okay, if you wish to address the board on any of the agenda items before the board today, and your name is not on the speaker list printed on blue paper located at both entrances to the auditorium, and if you've not already submitted a request for public testimony form, please complete the form and submit it to Ms. Ward, our board action officer. Speakers on agenda items will be called on to speak during the discussion of the agenda item. Once discussion begins on an item, no additional public speaker requests will be accepted by the board. Our bylaws provide that public testimony on agenda items is limited to a maximum of 20 minutes per consent and/or action item, allowing for a maximum of 10 minutes per opposing viewpoint. Public testimony speakers are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker, and depending upon the total number of speaker requests received by the board on an item, the time may be reduced to 2 or 1 minute each. The time limit for speakers on today's agenda items will be announced at each item. Can we get a motion to adopt the agenda for tonight?
So moved.
Please vote. And Superintendent Martin, you wish to amend the consent agenda?
Yes, I'd like to remove item J11, please.
Okay. And do we have any speaker requests on consent agenda items tonight?
We do. Items J7, J25, and J26.
I'd like to move the superintendent's consent agenda with the exception of the item that was pulled, J11, and with the exception of items 7, 25, and 26, which we'll take up later for consideration with public comment.
Thank you, Vice President Beiser. Do we have a second?
Second.
Please vote. Okay, and our student presentation tonight is from Mission Bay High School. Dr. McQuarrie, would you like to introduce the item?
Yeah, very excited to introduce Kimberly Meng and Principal Rummelard. It's going to be a middle school, high school principal presentation, but I think Kimmy Luckfield is going to be handling the presentation. We have a very unique cluster in Mission Bay. I know every cluster is unique, but what is different about Mission Bay is that all of the pathways that's exist in the Mission Bay cluster, whereas some of our high schools will have language, or they'll have IB, they'll have STEM, or they'll do music. No other cluster has all four that feed through their elementary system and then merge at the middle school and then are vertically pushed upward into the high school. And I think we're going to be sharing tonight about our STEAM cluster and our look at Blue Technology. So, Assistant Soup, Kim?
Good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you so much for this opportunity for our students to share the exciting work that they are going to be engaging in around blue technology. And as you know, Mission Bay has some very strong pathways from TK to 12 with Mandarin, with music, and of course with the advanced studies in the International Baccalaureate programs. So without further ado, I am going to have our principal from Mission Bay High School, Mr. Ernie Remillard, come on up and just say a few words before the student presentations. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you all for having us here tonight. We're excited to, as Dr. Mike kind of stole my thunder a little bit about our pathways, but we are excited to introduce this new pathway to the Mission Bay cluster. And really, the belief is that this will transform through our TK through 12. Obviously, we're close to the water, and we want to celebrate being close to the water. And this Blue Tech STEAM pathway that we have going forward, it's going to be wonderful for our students as well as a connection with the Maritime Alliance. So we're here to talk about some of the pre-work that's been going on. You're going to hear from our students and a couple of our staff as we go forward. Just real quick, the Mission Bay Cluster Blue STEM Pathway, in partnership with the Maritime Alliance, strives to connect students with blue tech, educational, career, and service opportunities. And earlier this month, we had a field trip to UCSD, and this was great because it was a combination of both the middle school and high school students together, learning about the impact of plastics in the ocean. Just a wonderful day between Birch Aquarium and UCSD. So without any more conversation from me, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Stephen Bauer, science and engineering teacher at PB Middle.
Good evening, our Board of Education, and good evening to our parents and our community members. The Mission Bay Cluster and our community partners are super excited to be engaged in this opportunity to bring the synergy of our local universities, local businesses, and fusing those together to sustain our ocean and sustain one of the most valuable resources of our community, our students. And so what I'd like to do is introduce one of our students from Pacific Beach Middle School who's starting with this STEM work, and she's just going to kind of go through a couple of PowerPoints and tell you about her excitement, because we teachers are excited, but it's more about the students being excited. They carry the torch. So you may introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Katerina Seidel. I'm in 8th grade and I go to Pacific Beach Middle School. I'm here speaking on behalf of my Gateway to Technology class. I'm taking this class because I thought it would be a fun elective, which it is, and I also thought that it would teach me new things and new skills, which it has already, and it's also a very new class that is very exciting and different from other classes that I've taken before. A week ago, I went to the high school and saw the different classrooms and classes that they have along this pathway, so I know what to expect. And then in this image, it's all of our projects that we did on our foot orthosis unit. The whole class, we all use the same design process, but they're all very different projects. The next image is our makerspace, which is where we do our designing and communication. And it's a very new space in our school. So I appreciate opportunities like this because it provides opportunities for our future, and it can lead to new paths, and it also provides experience for us as students. I'm excited and aware of our next projects on our 3D printers, our laser cutters, our vinyl cutters, and our CNC. So this class is also very important for connecting to classes in the high school, such as connecting to the Blue Tech. It also connects to our IB science classes at school for our building and designing projects, as well as our beach cleanups where we gather data. And it also connects to our ocean community, as well as the ocean ecology and economy. And I'm from a beach and ocean community, and I go fishing with my dad a lot, so I'm very exposed to this environment. Thank you.
Great job, Katerina.
Hi, my name is Pat Hollis, and I've been teaching in this district for over 30 years. And with this Blue Tech, it's probably been the most exciting and the best teaching I've seen or been able to do in 30 years. It moves fast. It's real-life skills. I see students more involved. What it allows me to do, I think, the most is I take my class out of the classroom and go actually see things. And then it blends in with their future with the high school. And sends a nice foundation, which in all my years teaching, I've never been able to blend in with the high school until just the last couple of years. And it's unique. It's great for the students. So when they leave my classes, they go to the high school, they know exactly pretty much what they want to do and what to expect. So appreciate that.
Right, thank you.
Thank you now.
Okay, video games. Kids love them. So at Mission Bay High School, with help from the CCT office, we wrote the game design course for our school and for the entire district now. The course is in the course catalog. And the aim is to teach kids how to computer program. So they learn how to make games and in the process learn how to type computer codes and make interactive experiences. And with this particular pathway, a major project we have right now, we have students who are making a virtual reality underwater experience, teaching in order to teach people about the problem of plastics in the ocean. We have an expert student here, Jordan, who's going to tell you more about that.
Yeah. So as Mr. Corbin said, my name is Jordan Grayson, and we have a couple of Blue Tech projects that we're really excited about, and they're cross-pathway projects, so we draw resources from our marine science classes as well as our game design and computer science classes, and the first of which is our virtual reality educational game about the ocean, which aims to spread knowledge about the ocean to as many people as we can, as well as the message of climate change, which is really important to us, as you'll hear later. And the second being our Cabrillo National Monument project, where we're taking multiple 360-degree cameras out to Cabrillo, and we're taking a bunch of footage, and we're going to create a video in conjunction with the park rangers that can be viewed in virtual reality.
Wow.
And we're very excited about this. So thank
Jordan, what grade are you in?
you. I'm a senior.
All right, thank you, Jordan. Great job.
Hello, my name is Ariel Henko. I'm a senior at Mission Bay High School. Mission Bay High School is very passionate about reducing both our campus and our community's environmental footprint. So 2 years ago, students began an eco club on campus which aims to do just that. We have since taken on several projects, one of which targets single-use plastic in the cafeteria. We work with district leaders of recycling in order to promote change for the better. Just this month, we finished a one-week pilot in which we exchanged traditional packaged utensils for individual utensils without packaging. We continue to move forward and advance this pilot in the hopes that both our school and others will adopt this change, which will lead to an overall reduction in the entire school district's environmental footprint, which would be amazing. Recently, we have also begun our plastic straw campaign, in which we are working with restaurants on Garnett Avenue in order to reduce their needless consumption of plastic straws.
Wow.
This partnership will lead to making our entire community more environmentally friendly and also possibly preventing plastic from entering the ocean, which again would be great. We have presented our project to both SeaWorld, and we are also partnered with Monterey Bay Aquarium. Each year in April, we attend the Monterey Bay Plastic Pollution Summit, in which like-minded youth from across California meet and present our initiatives to reduce plastic in our respective communities. By attending this event, we gain valuable insight, which allows us to push our projects even further and help to contribute to a healthier world. Thank you.
Fantastic, Ariel. Thank you.
My name is Kira Gray, and I'm also a senior at Mission Bay High School. With our Eco Club and our STEM pathways, we have several partnerships, two of which are with NOAA Southwest Fisheries and California Fish and Wildlife. In these partnerships, we are raising baby red abalone in our classroom, which is a really cool thing. You can see them on the screen there. And we also have a partnership with Hub SeaWorld, where they've entrusted us for the past 4 years with 50 white sea bass that we get to raise, tag, and release just in our own classroom. And here's us tagging fish. And these partnerships teach students the importance of threatened organisms in the ecosystem by giving them a real-life, hands-on experience. In addition to these partnerships, we also raise and rehabilitate the occasional shark, which is always a treat for the teachers and students. We are also partnered with the Climate Science Alliance, working with their Climate Kids program. Students from Mission Bay volunteer as climate ambassadors, teaching elementary schoolers about the earth, their impact on it, and communication in science. Last year, we visited PB Elementary, and this year we'll be working with Barnard Elementary. We have also gone to several climate awareness events with them, including the Tribal Earth Day and the Science Fair at Legoland. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Kara. Yeah.
And finally, I'd like to bring up Michael from the Maritime Alliance.
All right.
Ernie, thank you. It's a great honor to be here, particularly with incredible presentations that were just made. I mean, I don't think I could have done anything like that when I was in high school, so congratulations to all of you for the work you're doing. I'm the founder and the president of the Maritime Alliance. We start our 11th year in January. We are the largest blue tech cluster in the world, to the best of our knowledge, but largest in the United States. San Diego is a maritime city. We came here by boat, and yet we forget that. We did the first ever study, although we were built around a harbor, we were built around the Navy. Nobody had ever studied the blue economy here in San Diego until 2012. And we found 46,000 jobs and $14 billion of direct revenue. That's more than biotech, more than telecom, and nobody had ever focused on it before. Today, we announced formally the Blue Tech Incubator. This is a press release from Mayor Faulconer, and tomorrow we'll be actually, and all of you hopefully will have a copy of that, we'll be celebrating that opening, and we're one of the first Blue Tech incubators in the world. Blue economy is strong, it's growing internationally, and it has hundreds of different kinds of jobs, blue-collar, white-collar jobs, good-paying jobs. Our goal is for San Diego to be seen as one of the top 5 blue tech centers in the world. The only way we do that is to create the entrepreneurs of the future and the workforce of the future. And that's why this opportunity to work with the San Diego Unified School District to create this pathway is so critically important. And we are so excited as an institution, and all the people have been mentioned, Scripps, Hubs, all of those are partners of ours. We work with NOAA, Department of State, Department of Commerce, but there's nobody more important than these students, because they really are our future. So we really look forward to working together. This is kind of the opening bell for what we're doing together, but a formal academy. We can put entrepreneurs in residence. There are so many things that we'll be able to do together. So I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you for your work, and we look forward to working together.
Thank you. Thank you for the partnership. Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah. Thank you, Mission Bay High School. That was really one of the most incredible presentations I think we've seen in this district. And PB Middle, absolutely. Really, really inspiring. So thank you very much. Dr. McQuarrie, did you want to? Yeah.
Yeah, what I also want to point out is the articulation that we have and the partnerships that we're building in this particular cluster. So what you heard was a cluster presentation with middle school, high school, and references to what we're doing at our elementary schools. So it is a true partnership with all of the feeder schools working together to create new outcomes, new opportunities for students. The other thing you heard was the work that we're doing with our business and community partners. We would not be able to do this project if we didn't have the working relationship that we have with our business leaders, who are also looking at schools as a place where they can go to help solve problems. They're just not waiting for students to come to them. Our business partners and community leaders are coming to us to help us restructure our programs, to work with us in order to develop instructional environments where our students can solve the real world problems like was mentioned today, working collaboratively, and it's having a big difference. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dr. McQuarrie. Again, a big hand for Pacific Beach Middle School and Mission Bay High School. All right, item C2 is a resolution recognizing November 2017 as Native American Indian Heritage Month.
I'll move item C2.
Thank you. We've got a motion and a second. Please vote. Okay, great. We'll now move to item D1, our non-agenda public testimony. Today's meeting of the Board of Education is a business meeting of the Board of Trustees that is conducted in public, and board members will not engage in a dialogue with members of the audience. The opportunities for members of the public to provide input to the board on non-agenda matters and items on the agenda is through the submittal of a timely public testimony request. The time periods for speakers on each item are set by the board as described in the board's bylaws and will be announced to members of the public as each agenda item comes up for a discussion by the board. Testimony on non-agenda items is limited to a maximum of 15 minutes per topic. Public testimony speakers are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes per speaker, and depending upon the total number of speaker requests received, the time may be reduced to 2 or 1 minute each. If an issue needs further attention, the board may refer the matter to the superintendent for review and/or investigation. Today, each non-agenda speaker will have 3 minutes to address the board. Please remember, no deferral of time is allowed. The board asks that the speakers focus their comments on the issue, not on individuals. Non-agenda public testimony is for only those topics not on today's agenda. If your topic is on the agenda, you will be called to speak when we get to that subject matter item. When you begin speaking, the green light will come on, a yellow light when you have 1 minute left, and when your time is up, the red light will appear and a bell will ring. The lights are located directly in front of the podium on the dais next to Ms. Ward. Please finish your sentence when your time is up. We will now hear non-agenda public testimony, and I'll call up the names Donis Cornell, Citizen, Sean Coolican, and Kent Hartman.
So school year begins with a lack of proper staffing at school sites. And at Lincoln High School, scores are no better, and Martin has yet to show leadership to increase achievement at Lincoln High School. No permanent principal and the same teachers, and still at the bottom in achievement. And a waste of $1.5 million on Martin's pet project, the Quality Assurance Office. Carmina Dud Diploma Duran should be fired, and resources redirected to benefit students. Restoring the internal audit office should be a priority for this school board. And the course of study needs to include semester-long courses, pass-fail courses. All schools should have general work experience courses at the high school level, and all schools should have language courses, not just a few select schools, but all schools. And the school district continues to hide sexual abuse. An example would have been when the parents at Lincoln High School were never informed of a teacher who sexually exploited a girl. So we'll never know if there were more victims as a result of that man's presence in Lincoln High School. And schools are still old and have asbestos, but the district is buying property with bond money. Bathrooms still need to be modernized, modulars still exist. That wasn't a good expense of our taxpayer money. We should be seeing modernized, fresh, clean schools everywhere we walk with the millions and millions and millions of dollars that have been spent. Ball fields and football fields don't provide the day-to-day, everyday learning environment that our kids engage in every day. You should be spending the money on the asbestos that we find in the walls. I mean, telling teachers not to nail nails into walls because there's asbestos, that is not a school environment our children should be in. And under Martin, all of our employees took pay cuts. The worst thing she could have done for morale. There's a lot to be done in this district, and under Cindy Martin, that isn't happening.
Hi, I'm Donis Cornell, the Executive Director for the Administrators Association. I'm here to talk about the perfect storm that has severely impacted our AASD certificated members, specifically principals, vice principals, and central office managers. This perfect storm occurred when massive cuts were made on July 1 to our certificated management unit, including the elimination of vice principals at 35 sites, elimination of supervising classified employees, elimination of AASD-represented central office support, the reduction of essential services such as nurses, counselors, custodians, and landscape personnel. Couple this with the early retirement incentive, where staff with years of experience went out the door, leaving a huge number of vacancies, many that still haven't been filled. Add the chaotic classified bumping and the recall that has occurred. The result is the perfect storm in terms of the ability of our certificated leaders to get the job done in a manner that benefits students and ensures a safe and efficient work environment. A week ago, AASD delivered to each of you a candid and comprehensive workload survey reflecting the opinion of more than 65% of our members. I truly hope you have taken the time to read it. I know that the superintendent has. I know that for a fact because she and I have had discussions about it. Our principals, vice principals, and central office managers are used to hard work, long hours, and doing what it takes to get the job done. This isn't new to them. However, this year is so very different. Despite hard work and beyond reasonable work hours, they cannot even come close to getting the job done in an efficient manner that benefits students and ensures a safe and efficient workplace. This must be addressed, and it must be addressed now. Since receiving the survey results last week, the superintendent has told AASD that the issue of administrator workload is being taken very seriously and is being addressed at the executive leadership level, and we have seen evidence of this. AASD appreciates the superintendent's attention to this critical issue and acknowledges that steps have begun to occur to work towards solutions. We continue to implore the superintendent, area superintendents, and other executive leaders to please stop and think of the workload impact before assigning new initiatives and non-emergency work to our principals and other certificated members. School site leaders are beyond overwhelmed. Our schools must have a leader who can devote the time necessary to critical issues such as student safety and instruction. Please support our plea for a moratorium on new projects and new initiatives. Please allocate the resources necessary to the Human Resources Department so that recruitment efforts to staff vacant positions can accelerate. And please cancel all non-mandated professional development. This would be a continued step in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi there. Good evening again. I was here back in June. My name is Sean Kulikin. I'm a high school English teacher. My email is skulican@sandy.net. I'm here tonight because I haven't heard anything said or discussed about what happened last year with the pink slips given out in our district. I went to the State of Union address last week and nothing was said. At the end of the summer, I read in an email from the union that everyone who was pink slipped was given a new job and that it was a success. I'm here to tell both the district and the union about what I've had to go through over the last 8 months after getting a pink slip. I've given a lot of thought towards quitting as a high school teacher and going off to find a career that'll treat me far better. I was pink slipped in March and was told by my principal that he was doing everything to keep me at my school, SCPA. A week before the last day of school, he told me he had to interview people for my job. They were people who had more seniority in the district, but let's be honest, they were all simply older people. 3 days before the last day of school, 3 days, I was told that I was losing my job. The principal was forced to hire someone else. You see, it didn't matter that I already had 18 years of teaching experience. It didn't matter that I had a master's in English or that I was getting a second master's of fine arts and creative writing. It didn't matter that I had experience in teaching composition and literature at the university level. All that mattered was that these people had more seniority than me in the district. Even though I was an excellent department head of English and an exceptional teacher of creative writing, I had to leave SCPA. I never did any wrong. In fact, I did a whole lot of good. I want to return to SCPA next year. SCPA is my family, and that is my home. I like my new school now, but SCPA and the creative writing classes are where I belong. How can I return to SCPA? Can you please write to me and let me know? Finally, I want to say that I know that there's others out there just like me, and I know how they feel, and this district cannot do this again. To the union, there's more in a teacher than just seniority. If a principal wants to keep a teacher, he or she keeps a teacher. If a teacher has one or more graduate degrees, especially in their subjects, he or she keeps their job. And most of all, if the students want that teacher to stay, that teacher stays. Why did so many good teachers have to leave when some of the bad ones got to stay? I don't know. I've lost a lot of respect. I've lost a lot of respect for public education, and trust me, I worked in a charter school for 7 years. That is not the answer. But for any teacher who has a heart and a brain, he or she knows that there's a lot of problems here. What can we do in the future? How are we going to change this next time? Thanks for letting me speak. Please email me. I look forward to your response. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you.
I'm Kent Hartman. Are we on? I'm Kent Hartman. I addressed you briefly a while back. Completely unrelated tonight. Probably preaching the choir on this. San Diego Unified has 130,000 students roughly, and this number has been fairly steady for the last several years. Average daily attendance has dropped about 0.2% a year for the last 4 years. I believe it's now at 78.8% or close to it. I'm working off of the website. I hope that's more or less ballpark. And certainly the district had to make some extremely dramatic cuts last year. It was unpleasant for many, many people involved. I'm considering looking at the other side of the equation and wondering what initiatives might be in place at the board level to get more students in class. I can teach tall kids, short kids, green kids, purple kids, but I cannot teach absent students. And certainly the distribution as far as absences, as you know, is not anywhere near uniform. You have the habitual truants and you have the people who are here virtually every day. I realize that ADA remuneration from the state is not linear. Okay, I understand that. But ballpark, $30 a day, I think I'm in possibly low end of that, $5,400 a year. Can I get some semblance of a nod? Thank you. Okay, I realize there's no dialogue here, but I believe that's roughly correct. If we could reduce, and I said we're in this together, I'm a classroom teacher. If we could reduce the absenteeism to where we were at 95% attendance, and I realize I'm preaching the choir on this, at $5,400 a student, that would be about $108 million additional from the state. Please disagree with me immediately if I'm miles off on this. That would be the average students missing 1 day a month, which is roughly what the faculty is allowed maximum. I wish I had answers. And I'm open to suggestions, but I do hope that some attention is paid to that side of the equation as all, because it's, as we know, it's very difficult to make cuts. We'd love to have them here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hartman. I think our number is about 96%, isn't it? Our average daily attendance. Yeah. It's about, our average daily attendance is actually about 96%.
Okay, the district website, I appreciate you correcting me. And the district website is running 101,000 students per day on 130,000.
You're factoring in charter school students into that 130,000 figure.
Appreciate it, 96%? Okay, thanks.
Thanks very much. Yes.
Staff is telling me there's 75%.
75, okay.
96.75%.
96.75%. Okay, Ms. Donovan, do we have any reportable actions?
We do not.
Okay, thank you. And Superintendent Martin, do we have any administrative assignments to report out?
Yes, President Barrera, we have two. We have Program Manager for Special Education in Specialized Settings, Edward Baisley, and Principal for Scripps Ranch High School, Nicole DeWitt.
Great, thank you. And now we'd like our ASB student representatives to the board to introduce yourselves. Please tell us about yourself and what's going on at your school, both academically and socially. We'll start with Parker Phillips, our ASB president from Claremont High School. Parker.
Hello and good evening. My name is Parker Phillips, the ASB president at Claremont High School. It is my honor to present information in regards to our changing school climate, school spirit, and academic successes. Claremont High School is set up in a fully emerged wall-to-wall academy system. This system has been the primary catalyst to the increasing school population. While our students primarily come from the Claremont cluster of schools, we do have a significant population of students who are bused in. It is our greatest ambition to keep these cluster families within our system and ultimately creating a stronger tie within the Claremont community. Due to the recent pushes by our staff, students, and parents, our average class size has increased. This freshman class has been the largest in recent memory, and they have been the most inclined to show their orange and blue spirit. I feel these positive changes are due to the academies and our ASB. I feel that our ASB has made a positive impact on student life and spirit. In addition, our principal, Dr. Jennifer Roberson, has supported us in every step we take to better the school, showing sincerity and drive in supporting Claremont's student body. We are continuing to strive to better our school spirit through the involvement of alumni and future chieftains. This past homecoming season, we hosted our first annual alumni brunch, inviting all graduate classes back to campus to celebrate 60 years of our doors being open. In addition, our athletic department invited all Claremont Cluster elementary schools to be admitted for free for our Pink Out football game on the 20th for breast cancer awareness. Bringing together the past and the future is our vision of building a stronger Claremont. For the remainder of the year, our ASB is planning many new and adventurous events for our school and community, such as a winter formal and dinner dance, as well as various community partner sponsorships. Beginning in January, we are initiating a best practice within our cluster by inviting all elementary and middle school future leaders to be a part of our first student leadership camp. Each day, the students will learn skills to help improve the spirit at their schools, from tools as simple as poster making and spirit day ideas to as complex as organizing their own community events. This camp will additionally prepare these students to enact and participate in a week-long of anti-bullying events the following month. We also look to continue Claremont traditions such as our annual Kindness Week and Winter Wonderland. The stronger we can get our relationships with our cluster, the greater our community will become. Thank you for this opportunity to speak on behalf of Claremont High. May the orange and blue shine brightly through.
All right, great job, Parker. And now from the East Village High School, we've got Diego Oliva. Diego.
Good afternoon. Is this on? My name is Diego Oliva.
Is it on?
Yeah, okay. Good afternoon. My name is Diego Oliva, and I am the ASC president of East Village High School. EVHS is temporarily located on the campus of San Diego High School. From 2008 to 2015, we were located on City College's campus and are looking forward to relocating back there in the near future. Founded in 2008, East Village High School is an early college high school with class sizes that allow for productive small group and individual attention. In the first few months of our new school year, East Village High's ASB has now taken a renewed and progressive approach to promoting leadership skills, contributing back to our communities, and actively showing our school spirit. Awareness days are also being promoted so that our students are more knowledgeable of issues that affect their local communities. Last week, we asked students to wear pink to enhance breast cancer awareness, and in a couple of weeks, we will be participating in anti-bullying awareness to show that one's health and well-being is important to us all. We are showing that students deserve equality and respect. Spirit Week is also right around the corner, with students enthusiastically and embracing the growth of our school spirit. This year, we're also wanting to extend our partnership beyond the perimeters of our campus and be more involved and contributive to our local communities. That is why we are working to find volunteer opportunities for students and in ways in which leadership skills can be cultivated and practiced in our community. By exposing our students to new and engaging challenges, students will be better prepared than ever to enter the world as a positive, contributing graduates. This year, our school will be participating in the Martin Luther King Jr. Food Drive and City College's Social Justice Conference in March, giving students an opportunity to contribute and make a difference towards an alleviation of hunger in San Diego and participate in City College's activities. To keep students aware and updated about what is happening around campus, ASB has constructed a monthly newsletter that shares principal and counselor information, upcoming events, teacher and student information. After 2 years of not having a prom, our school seniors are working with the ASB and senior committees of other atypical schools to work collectively towards having a prom. This planning is still in initial stages, but over the last few weeks, it seems viable that this collaboration may become a reality. Our partnership with San Diego City College has allowed our students to take a wide variety of electives that help them to explore different fields of studies. Students take classes such as astronomy, sociology, gender studies, American Sign Language, and among many others. We are looking forward to an even deeper collaboration, particularly in the area of priority for registration of our students, taking core classes in English, math, and history. We believe these represent the true measures of successful dual enrollment program, and this collective effort to help students across college programs. We truly appreciate the support of this board. Thank you.
Terrific job. Thank you, Diego. Okay, we will now have board information reports. We'll start with Dr. McQuarrie. I'm sorry, I just skipped right over the superintendent. Yeah, the superintendent.
Thank you,
please.
President Barrera. First,
Information report.
I'd like to say thank you to our students, parents, principals, teachers, everyone across the district for the hard work and collaboration this week, calling the minimum days due to heat in our schools that didn't have over 80% air conditioning. There are very hot conditions, and I know that I've listened to families and stories from across the district about people doing everything they can to protect the health and safety of our students, and that's a high priority. And I know this heat wave is almost over. I spent 17 years in the classroom at school sites. I know what it's like to be learning in those conditions and how challenging that can be. I also want to talk about our State of the District speech last week. President Barrera and I were able to speak about that, and I think the Blue Tech presentation today was an exact example of what I spoke about when I said be a drum major for something, for not just promoting ourselves, but about making a change in the world, making a difference in the world, making a contribution. And we just heard students tonight speak so passionately and very clearly articulating what it means to take their education and use it to make a difference and make good in the world. And they're clearly strong drum majors for making a difference and standing up for social justice and righteousness and values that we all hold. So it was great to see them, and we'll continue to have more presentations like that, student presentations, at the beginning of our meetings.
Great, thank you, Superintendent. Dr. McQuarrie?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I will be reporting on my school and community connections. That's what's been my focus for my reports for this year.
Yeah.
And in that respect, I want to highlight a few of them. So I did tour the Pacific Beach Middle School and Mission Bay High School and had a chance to see their programs, their facilities, and you saw a sample of that tonight. Very, very exciting. I was also attended the San Diego County School Board Association regional meeting with Trustee Sharon Whitehurst Payne, where we met with 42 other school districts and their board representatives to talk about what are some of the issues facing us, that we have common concerns and looking for common solutions across the county. I did attend the Council of Great City Schools with their 61st annual conference in Cleveland. And met with the 70 largest school districts in the nation to review last year's issues, to talk about current problems, and to prepare for future challenges. I attended the California School Boards Association, their collaborative coalition on educational excellence, and it's an organization where we do professional connections and networking in order to talk about common issues. I attended today the Asian Business Association luncheon, where I'm beginning to connect with and meet with our Asian business leaders throughout our school district. Coming up next, I'll attend tomorrow a charter school task force meeting in Sacramento, where we talk about charter issues. And I'll be that evening I'll be meeting with the residents of the Council General for Japan to honor our San Diego Yokohama Sister City Society. There are 3 organizations that are being recognized, and our community here in San Diego is part of that, and they are big supporters of our schools, and specifically in our Bernard and Crown Point area. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. McQuarrie. Dr. Evans.
Okay, we had the State of the District addressed by President Barrera and Superintendent Martin last week, and at one point the superintendent said the state of our schools is very strong. At another point, Mr. Barrera said that public education is now very fragile. So the issue is how can it be both of those things at the same time, but I really think it can be. And I think we see tonight the example from our students at Mission Bay High, also with our students here. Particularly I was just thinking about what Parker was saying at Claremont High. They have 4 pathways that didn't exist a couple of years ago. They can study engineering, information technology, healthcare, business, not waiting until college, but actually getting that experience in high school. And our whole point has been, we've been focused on not just higher graduation rates, but meaningful graduation, so the students really are prepared for the real world once they graduate from school, while at the same time we're going to the other end and focusing on K-3 literacy to make sure that our students have a successful experience throughout all the years that they're in school. So these are a lot of the very strong things that are going on in the district, and again, I think the best witnesses to that are the actual students who can tell you the great things that are being accomplished in our schools. Then there's the fragility of public education, and we face this all the time in terms of when we're looking at budgets from year to year, when California is really at the bottom of the barrel in terms of per pupil funding. We're going to be looking at each year, like what's the amount of money that's needed just to maintain the status quo, because we can fall behind as we're standing still on budgets. But we also need to look at what is adequate funding to really have what we need to properly run our schools. And we all have a responsibility for that. We all like to point the finger. It's the school board, it's the state, whatever, but we are all responsible. And the fact of the matter is we elect legislators, we elect the governor, and everybody says education is wonderful, but we need to really hold them to the fire. So I'm looking forward to that this year.
Thank you, Dr. Lemons. Vice President Beiser? Dr. Whitehurst-Payne?
I think we're all verbose tonight, a little talkative.
Two buzzers.
Two buzzers.
Thank you for this opportunity. I want to comment on a couple of things. One, Crawford High School had its initial opening with its football stadium, and the excitement there was palpable. We had some people to come back from the 50s. It was at Crawford High School, yes, on the field. Some football players from the 50s. So they were excited to be there and excited for the school. I do know that they got the first touchdown. Crawford got the first touchdown on their new field. I don't know about the rest of it, but they got the first touchdown. And that was exciting, even for me. We won't go there. The other thing, and the students are excited about moving forward with getting their new buildings. In fact, one student said, he's in the ROTC, he said, my brother will go to that, will be in that classroom. So we're looking forward to the continuation of building there at Crawford High School and making it a school like all the other schools in the district. I just want to comment a little bit about drones and this need to be sure that all of our schools are having access to technology and to the wonderful blue technology and the blue industry and so forth. So if we can just kind of reach out a little bit beyond Mission Bay High School. Yes, I spent some years teaching at Mission Bay, but I also want us to remember our schools like Morse, where we don't have the ocean nearby. So if the tech people can reach out a little further and remember that Morse and Lincoln and Crawford are out in the east, and kind of pull them into some of the new technology that's going forth, it will help them to prepare for jobs and for the future also. So we're reaching out there with the Elementary Institute of Technology, etc. Told you we're all verbose today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Whitehurst-Payne. I want to thank the San Diego Education Association for facilitating two meetings that I participated in over the last couple of weeks, one at Alba, the middle and high school, and one at Central Elementary School, where staff came together and identified some of the issues that they've been dealing with as the school year is starting. And I want to thank Cheryl Hiblin and Mia Funk for coming and engaging in problem solving with the staff regarding Alba. And I want to thank Sophia Friere and Liz Duval and Deanna from Special Ed for engaging in problem solving at Central. I believe it's critical that as we face some of the issues, given the difficulties with funding in our public education system, that we continue to come together and problem solve. We also, at the State of the District address, acknowledged the family of Gaston Casares, our father of two students at Scripps Ranch High School who had been deported a couple of weeks prior. And tragically, on Thursday, we had another situation with another parent, Sylvia Ocampo, who's a parent of both a third grader at Hamilton Elementary School and an eighth grader at Monroe Clark Middle, who has also been taken away from her family, from the kids' schools, and from our community. The district is working and establishing a relationship and being a partner with the ACLU and Alliance San Diego and others in the creation of a community-wide rapid response network. So as we hear about these issues ahead of time, we can do everything that we can to jump in and support these families, but we have to understand and look at the reality and push back on the reality that since the presidential election in November, our families are facing a whole new level of fear and anxiety, and it's not right and it's not just. Okay, we will move on to item F2, and this is the reconfiguration of the John Muir K-12 Magnet School. Superintendent Martin.
Thank you. I'd like to invite up the team that's here to present this item with me tonight, and I'll begin by saying specifically I'm really excited. This has been a lot of work pulling this together over many months. We have the principal, Laura Bellafato, Dr. Freire, the area superintendent, and Greg Ottinger, our CBO. And specifically, this item is coming to the board tonight. It's a culmination of efforts by our educators, our parents, the community, and district staff to work on our board's goal around language and language acquisition, and to increase our district's capacity for dual language immersion opportunities. We know there's a very great demand for that. We've been listening to our stakeholders, and the message has been clear that our students and families really want more dual language programs, and in fact, we have a huge waiting list for that. The proposal's in alignment, of course, with our LCAP goal 5.5, and we've been experiencing, well, you'll hear some more tonight about what's been happening at John Muir specifically, and why we're recommending this expansion. So we have Dr. Freire and Muir principal Laura Bellafato to elaborate on the stakeholder engagement process that we've been through to develop this proposal.
Superintendent Martin, President Barrera, and Board Trustees, it's my pleasure to be part of this presenting team today to talk about the reconfiguration plans for Muir. And I want to start by highlighting the alignment that this proposal has with some other initiatives district-wide. First of all, there is tight alignment between Vision 2020 and quality neighborhood schools. And we want to ensure that we're meeting the demand that we have for language programs, and that we're expanding our language programs throughout the district. Additionally, our proposal is aligned with Concepts in Action, the 11 concepts that we discussed or that were presented in 2015 to actually leverage and expand our language programs or programs that are doing well. Also aligned, the other piece that's aligned is 5.5 in our LCAP that also talks about strengthening our language cluster programs. So the next slide talks about the need that we have for language immersion programs. And like Superintendent Martin just mentioned, this year we got over 1,100 applications for our language programs. Of those 1,100, 287 were enrolled, and we have 871 on a waiting list to get into our language programs that we offer throughout the district. It's important to remember that we have two types of programs. So we have the school-wide programs that are full immersion programs such as Longfellow and Language Academy, but we also have multiple strand cluster programs that are kind of schools within schools, and examples of that are Adams Field, Gage, Juarez, and Tierrasana Elementary School. And so that distinction is important because our proposal is to reconfigure Muir into the first bullet, which is a full language immersion program. A little bit about Muir. So Muir is a beautiful, amazing K-12 school. I love spending time in those classrooms. They have a thriving program that's focused on Paideia, which really gives students the skills that they need to participate in debate and discourse. And it's beautiful to be able to see that in action in those classrooms. But Muir also has declining enrollment. So their current capacity is at 400 students, and current enrollment is 245. And so Principal Bellafato and I have been in multiple conversations since I started as an area superintendent to try to figure out how we were going to increase the enrollment of the school. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Principal Bellafato, who could say a little bit about the community engagement that took place in preparation for our proposal.
Good evening, everyone. I am the proud principal of John Muir, Laura Bellafato, and I appreciate the opportunity of being here. I told Dr. Freire that I was going to speak from the heart. So the reconfiguration or potential reconfiguration of John Muir started the conversation in November of 2016. I have to say that it sent a shock wave through everyone in the school, my staff, the parents, the community, myself, because John Muir has over 40 years history of being a K-12 school. So any conversation about changing the school or doing anything to change that trajectory was not very well accepted at the beginning. But throughout the year, we continue to engage in conversations with Dr. Freire, Dr. Martel, the parents, the communities, and every time that they came up with a new scenario for John Muir, the parents and the staff, we gave our input, and throughout the multiple conversations that we have, I'm elated that in the summer of 2017, a proposal came to the table to keep John Muir as a K-8 school with the Paideia philosophy and the global citizenship philosophy, but then include now or phase in a language immersion program and phase out our English-only program that allow the families that have really chosen to be part of the Muir community to continue to be in the Muir community, with the elimination of the high school, knowing that with the A through G requirements and the rigor of high schools, we had not only the low enrollment, but we couldn't meet all the needs of the kids in the high school. So I am elated here tonight, and I have some of the parents and staff with me in appreciating at least the scenario and the proposal to stay K-8 and start with the language immersion program next year, starting with K and first grade. So thank you so much for the consideration.
Which leads to the next element. We know that a simple house or an apartment doesn't make that structure a home. We know that it takes a lot more. And when we think about a single building or a series of buildings on a school site, there's a tremendous amount of work that goes into making sure that those structures, those elements, are all designed and perfectly geared to support our students and the learning pathways from the earliest of our learners to our students that are matriculating onto college and career. So with that, as we've mentioned before, the district has implemented a new district design team. And I want to underscore that this design team is solely focused on making sure that all elements, from the facilities to the curriculum, to the instructional practices, to the operational support, all of those elements are working in harmony to create the best possible learning solutions. And I could tell you more about that team. And so on the next slide, I just want to take a moment and have you take a look at the district, just some of the district teams or representatives that are involved in this process to make sure we get it right. I also want to mention that these are the district pieces. We are working together to make sure that we are dialoguing with the community, with the Board of Education, with all of the individuals that are not represented. This slide is symbolic of the folks working together internally to make sure we're getting it right for our communities and everybody who's not on this slide. So I just want to make that very clear. I also want to move on to what the Board of Education is voting on this evening. We've talked about this is an incredible process. There's incredible demand. Tonight, your vote is to simply move forward with this outstanding proposal to change the grade configuration from a K-12 to a K-8, and then also to phase in a dual immersion French and Spanish, all along keeping the Paideia philosophy as an instructional strategy. So we want to make sure that we're clear on what your vote this evening is on. Here's a site visual. This is current state. This is before the district design team has worked through all of the elements that we think will be a great fit, which will certainly include increasing the capacity, working on the welcoming nature of the campus, thinking about all of the pieces that we can put into place from both a physical element and then also how all of that fits with the instructional elements. So this is a starting place in terms of some of the things we know will be included, and this will evolve with all of the work that will commence upon a successful vote this evening. So with that, I want to turn it back over to Dr. Frere.
So let's take a minute to look at the proposed implementation plan. And I do need to give credit to the Muir community because they're the ones who came up with this plan. When we originally started these conversations with Dr. Martel, our proposed plan looked very different than what you're seeing in front of you. So it was through tons of community input and conversations with families and teachers and staff that we came to this plan. And so basically what you will see is that the existing high school seniors will graduate at the end of this year. The other students that are in the high school program will receive actual individualized enrollment options to one of our other high schools. And there's about 23 students that we're talking about in terms of getting this individualized support. And then the rest of the students that are in the K-8 currently will just phase out of the school. So there is going to be no impact on the students currently enrolled at Muir. So as the students move up in grade levels, we will phase in the language program. Additionally, we will work hard on a marketing plan to market the new language program and reconvene that design team that Greg just mentioned earlier. In terms of the classes we will open with, our current proposal is to open with 3 kinder classes, 2 in Spanish, 1 in French, and 2 first grade classes, 1 in Spanish and 1 in French. And like Greg or Laura mentioned, we will continue with the Paideia philosophy throughout the school and reconvene a task force for site modernization. And that was also mentioned by Greg earlier. You have more details in your board docs about exactly how we will grow the language program at Muir. And every year we will add a different grade level or the subsequent grade level to the school. And in 2026 and 2027 is where we'll have the first 8th grade class at Muir, the new Muir or the new reconfigured Muir. I'm going to turn it back over to Greg that's going to discuss, who will discuss fiscal impact.
This will be a relatively short fiscal impact statement. From a simple economic standpoint, the district is demonstrating and the board is demonstrating supply and demand and listening deeply to what our communities are telling us in terms of the programs that are desired. This is a great example of that. And so with that, we do expect to increase the program capacity, which will also result in additional students, which also makes it a more optimistic fiscal impact. So that's the end of my fiscal impact report. And with that, we would like to open it up to any questions you may have for us at this time.
Dr. Whitehurst? Oh, I'm sorry, we do have one speaker, Mark Cardenas. He's withdrawn. Okay, great, thank you. Yeah, Dr. Whitehurst?
I think that this whole issue of Muir was one of the items that I received a lot of emails on, and I'm sure you all did too. And I, in fact, met with some folks from that particular site. And you're telling me that those issues have all been resolved?
There was a lot of questions about what was going to happen with the existing program. And like I said, our current plan was to relocate the existing students to another site. And so I believe that Principal Bellafato uses the word elated. She uses that word to represent the current families that are at that school. They're elated that they actually get to, there's not going to be an impact to them, and they get to actually transition out of the school that they enrolled in. So I believe that we could confidently say that those concerns have been addressed with this new proposal to allow all the existing kids to matriculate out of the school.
Through graduation?
Through 8th grade.
Oh, I'm sorry, through 8th.
Through 8th grade.
Yeah.
And the others will go to other high schools. Will they won't get this special PDAIA training or any of that, but they'll move on to the next level?
Yeah, we're talking about probably 20 students. So roughly about 20 students will get individualized support in registering to the high school of their choice.
And had those parents weighed in at all? Have you spoken to them to let them know this is coming, or has somebody spoken
I'm going to refer that question to Principal Bellafato.
Oh,
I can address that. For the last month and a half, I've been meeting individually with each family of the students in group grades 8 all the way through 11. When we started the conversation last year, and there were different scenarios, so it was kind of very rocky, and through a lot of input, then we came up with this final scenario. But I started the conversation with Marceline Marquez from Enrollment Options and Dr. Martel, and in giving priority consideration to the students that stayed with us this year to complete the last year of the K-12 configuration. And I've been meeting with all the parents individually, so I have a database, and we have been talking about individually what the child wants to do, what type of high school they want to go, what kind of environment, and I've been able to have those conversations one-on-one to pick the best place for each. And some of them have decided to go to smaller high schools, and others have decided to go to large comprehensive high schools.
Very good. Thank you for doing that.
Yes.
And I want to say that I commend this whole effort to look at the numbers. Over 1,000 students want to attend this school, and we so far only have roughly 250 students. So we should be trying to attract students in the areas where they want to come. And I've had this conversation with the superintendent and others here about that idea. If you're offering children or anybody chocolate ice cream and they want pistachio, nut, whatever, then we should be trying to give them some pistachio, nut, whatever kind of ice cream they want, rather than just a chocolate or whatever, vanilla or whatever kind of ice cream. So I commend you for moving in that direction to try to match the requests with what people want, because it's all good for the children. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice President Beiser.
Yeah, I just want to thank the staff and the principal and the superintendent for really having a very exhaustive process to make sure that the community is being listened to and that all the affected parents are being talked to individually. That's really, really important, that some people, some parents, some students aren't being left out of that process. So thank you very much for that. I also think that this is absolutely the right direction to offer more dual language opportunities for students. I do have one question. If you're going to have one kinder French class of 24 students or something like that, then typically some of those students in in first grade or second grade may see that that's maybe not a good fit for them, and they might want to go into an English environment. And so then your 24 may go down to 20 or 18. How is that sustainable in the outgrades? in terms of the class sizes and things like that?
We've thought a lot about attrition, and so what is critical about the design team that Greg talked about is that we're not doing this in a vacuum and we're not doing it in isolation. So part of our planning team also includes the Longfellow principal and the Language Academy principal, and there's been a lot of conversation about what's the right number of students to start with. So in your board docs you have more details about what it'll look like as we grow the program, but there has been a lot of conversations about what happens with attrition and losing students.
Okay. Will any parents or students from the Language Academy and the French or Spanish program that maybe live, 3 blocks away from this school be able to transfer?
I wish Marceline was part of the conversation because she could answer that, but my guess would say absolutely. They just have to go through the choice process.
Okay, but do you think that we might want to try to find solutions to that? Because if I live 3 blocks away from the new French and Spanish immersion school, but yet my child is going to Language Academy 20 minutes, 30 minutes away, hopefully I would think that we might want to try to figure out strategies to accommodate those parents and students.
Marceline is coming
Hi.
up, our enrollment options, and can speak to this.
So yes, we plan to work with the families at the current Language Academy and work with the design team to figure out a really fair, equitable process to offer enrollment at one campus or the other, whichever is more convenient for the families, and we're currently working on that.
Okay. And then similarly along that lines, obviously the corollary would be, if a family lives, in the vicinity or the resident boundary, and they've been going to the Language Academy for 7 years, they had their older brothers and sisters, and now this is child number 3 going through, and they're maybe in the 2nd grade or something like that. Can they keep that child in the Language Academy if they so desire to continue that continuity, if the family wants to?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Dr. McQuarrie?
Reconfiguring, restructuring, closing schools can always be a major issue in a community. I just want to commend the staff and everyone who worked on this for the excellent transition that you have made to deal with student issues, parents, community, staffing, teachers, to keep the Padilla philosophy and to add French and Spanish where there's a tremendous need for language acquisition. I think is absolutely brilliant. And then for you to also be thinking down the road about how we sustain and maintain the program, and thinking about marketing, which is what we want to do. These are incredible report and commendations. I do have a question about the other 2 schools that were mentioned. Field. What is the Field and the Innovation connection?
The field is about a mile away from the Muir Academy, so it was important for us to distinguish that these are 2 different programs and they draw kids from different areas. And so the Muir is going to be a dedicated magnet that will draw students potentially from the entire district. Field is a Strand language immersion program, so they primarily draw students from the Madison or Claremont cluster, and so they're drawing different kids. Our hope is that there isn't an impact, but we have several conversations with district staff, including Marceline, Dr. Martel, and Principal Griffiths, to ensure that there isn't an impact on their enrollment and the ability for their program to continue to thrive. I've made it my personal commitment that I've said it to the community at Field and the principal that I'm going to continue to champion their program. And the beauty about this is that both of these schools are in Area 4, and I'm the superintendent for both, so I have a vested interest in ensuring that both of these programs continue to thrive.
Thank you. Dr. Evans?
Yeah, I have a few comments, but first a question. We have the Language Academy, Longfellow, and now Muir, and then the others, the strands you're talking about, like Adams, Engage, and Field. Is there any difference in that program? I mean, we're talking about an immersion program where they're doing part of the time in English and part of the time in the target language. My understanding is the difference is that there's a particular class or group within a school, say Field or another school, while the others are traditional classes. But is there any other difference? Is it just as much of an immersion program at schools like Field and Engage as there is at the Language Academy schools?
Well, right now, all of our conversations have been based on structure, right? We haven't really had deep conversations about the type of program that's going to be offered at this language immersion school. And so we need to engage with the Office of Language Acquisition to now, once this is approved, in terms of we're moving forward with the structure of the school and reconfiguring the school, now we're going to have more developed conversations about what type of program will be offered at Muir. We're not there yet, and I don't want to misspeak and promise a program without having a lot of input from a lot of different stakeholders about what's the best program to offer at Muir.
Okay. I mean, several years ago, we wrote in Vision 2020 that we wanted all of our students to graduate with the ability to communicate in 2 languages, which is very easy to write, but it's another thing to actually accomplish. Yeah, write it in one language. And so this is just a good example of really moving forward. I mean, many people have taken a college or high school courses in a language, which is very different than being able to communicate in a language, and that's what these immersion schools are really doing. And like everybody else, I really want to praise the progress. One way to look at it is look at how the relatively sparse attendance at this meeting. One thing that could have happened would have been to say, okay, Muir is down in enrollment. We want more language immersion programs. Let's put one there. Maybe we'll do something in conjunction with Language Academy, and we'll decide from the top, and then that will be done. And we would probably have this auditorium full of people protesting a top-down decision. And just the way you described it in terms of we had certain initial ideas, we listened to the community, obviously a very enthusiastic and flexible principal, looking at this whole issue. Has just made a tremendous difference in terms of being able to preserve the Paideia philosophy and also to incorporate the language immersion aspect. It's just a really good job. And then we're also combining the instruction with construction in terms of looking at, okay, we have this bond money. It's not just to build just some regular old buildings everywhere, but what do we need exactly for the type of academic program that we're going to operate at this particular school with a particular capacity. And I think we really need to express a lot of appreciation to Dr. Julie Martell, who did a lot of work in really looking at how this big puzzle of we have these ideas, but how do we all put it together and make it really work? The idea that these language schools are popular, but we need to have them not just in one location, but across the district. And she just did a lot of great work. And so Mr. Ottinger said we're going to have an opportunity to vote on this. He said outstanding program. So I'd be interested to see what board member is going to vote against a program that's described as outstanding.
No, thank you, Dr. Evans. I just want to reiterate our appreciation for first of all, the leadership role, Laura, that you have played in this. And I know how difficult, a process this, must have been for you, but to turn it into a situation where your community is excited, and now we get to offer up, new opportunities to students throughout the district is, again, tremendous leadership on your part and on Sophia's part, and of course, Julie Martell and our superintendent as well. So exciting process and especially exciting new opportunities for students in our district. Dr. Whitehurst-Payne.
One quick question. If I could just get a note from the staff about the people on that list. Are they internal, outside the district? Are they at one of the Gage or... just a note on the other 800 some odd kids who are on the waiting list.
Yeah.
That'd be helpful.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes any sense.
Marceline's coming up. You're about to list all 800 names.
I could give you a ton of data on our waitlisted pupils if you want it, but what I can tell you is that between Longfellow and Language Academy alone, there were close to 900 pupils that we were not able to seat at those schools, more than enough to fill up a couple of language-focused schools. We probably get about 15% out of district. They have lowest priority in our choice process. So 85% approximately are in-district pupils, and we venture a guess that many of those make other choices for enrolling their children in other language programs. So we'd like to claim them back.
I'd like to reiterate the board's sentiment to thank Dr. Julie Martell when she presented over a year ago to Concepts to Action. This is now finally coming true, and Dr. Martell has been retired and volunteering her time as we watch this come to fruition tonight. So Dr. Ferreri's leadership, of course, Principal Bellafato and Dr. Martell and Dr. Ottinger and everyone that you engaged, but especially Dr. Martell being here tonight. I appreciate you here. Thank you.
Okay.
I'd like to move item F2.
And do we have a second?
Second.
Somebody, I think Dr. Evans was the second. Did you have one more comment or question? No, I'm good. Okay, with that, please vote. Okay, and it turns out unanimous, Dr. Evans,
Yes.
in response.
I'd like to move item G, the board consent agenda.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Please vote. Okay, and now we're on to item H1, and this is our semi-annual update from our District English Learner Advisory Committee. Superintendent?
Thank you. This is actually an update from the advisory committee, so I believe that the advisory committee chair or their designee or representative will be here to give us this update tonight. We also have the OLA staff here. Sandra Cephas is participating, I think, in the presentation from the update, about the update from the advisory committee.
And I'm just here for support because she wanted me to be up here with her, so I'm just going to help her with this.
Thank you, Sandra.
District English Learners Advisory Committee, DLAC. All humans being are language learners, whether we are learning a new language, new vocabulary related to a program of study or a job, are different registers of speech in varied social settings. The executive DLAC board members established these goals. For our meeting, we established that we will take a leadership role as present representatives and district stewards. My name is Sylvia Herrera, and I represent DLAC goals for 2017-2018. DLAC will work collectively with OLA and FACE to increase parent attendance at general DLAC meetings. Partner with the district to be proactive in supporting EL students and families affected by the President's executive orders. Promote student safety as we teach cultural proficiency and eliminate bullying. In order for the executive board to fulfill the goals of DLAC, we develop an action plan. We will highlight our actions to attain the goals for increasing parent engagement. Plan of action to increase DLAC attendance. We will provide attendance increase like book gives away, offer tools and resources, post photos of attendance on OLA website. In order to plan of action, be proactive with DACA. We will invite counseling service to provide parents with information such as guest speakers and offer community supports and resources. Plan of action to increase cultural proficiency. Inform parents of ways students or parents can report bullying using the district website. We want to invite speakers to share personal stories, discuss how parents can supporting to the school, involve school counselors. We need to figure out a way in which students, parents, and staff can discuss, report, and eliminate this type of behavior. We look forward to working with district staff to do this. Okay, this. And now, I would like to share, okay, you gotta go back. Now, I'd like to share our English learners' highlights today. Today, we have reclassified 4,019 students. Our reclassification rate has increased from 14.4 to 17.1%. We have more students who earn the seal of biliteracy. Yay! Woo! And the numbers of our long-term English learners have decreased, which is really good. By 800. Thank you very much. Now it's Valentina's turn.
Right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Hello, everybody. Here we go. Okay. Concern number 1. Oh, I have to move it. Bing. Where is it? Concern number 1. English learners need to have the English language development every single day, right? It's very important so that way they could increase in their skills in learning English. According to state law, as part of the core programs provided through general funds, each English learner must receive a program of English language development in order to develop proficiency in English as rapidly and effectively as possible, consistent with state priorities. How do we know this is happening? Well, we need to make sure that it's happening in the schools. We recommend that the Board of Education and Superintendent to redouble their efforts by establishing a consistent accountability system to ensure that every English learner from TK through 12 is receiving daily English language development instruction while holding all the English learner students to the same high expectations outlined in the Common Core state standards. DLEC is asking to create English language development accountability systems to make sure that the English language development is taking place and being monitored daily. That way we could ensure that all schools are providing daily English language development in their schools. These are services our students are entitled to receiving under the law. DLEC is aware that the principals submit English language development schedules to the OLA office and to the area superintendents annually. However, DLEC is asking for a monitoring of this and that is happening monthly, so that way we make sure that it's happening on a daily basis and not that some schools by the end of the year are not providing it, which hopefully they are all providing it because they know it helps. So I think I kept going and I did it already. Okay. Number 1, how do we know that this is happening? Principals submit English language development schedules on an annual basis. This fall, based on the DLEC recommendations, sites will submit English language development schedules to OLA and to the area superintendents. That way the area superintendents are aware of what's going on in their schools. OLA, the Office of Language Acquisition, created the San Diego Unified School District's English language development bundles to ensure that English language learners are receiving standard-based instructional supports on a daily basis.
Valentina, can I just ask, and maybe to Sandra, when we say response, is this the OLA office's response? Gotcha. Okay.
That they work together
That
on.
you work together on.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Yep.
Okay. Concern number 2, número 2. Restructuring the English language support teachers that we had before. Now there are only 39 English language ELSTs, they changed the name, to English language instructional resource teachers. They have replaced the 47 English language support teachers that we had in the past. The district has in place now this year, we have less than we had before. How will the new model be applied equally and equitably in every school in order to support more more of our students, since we have, actually we have less students that are English learners in the district than we had in the past. We used to have like 32,000, now we only have 24,000, but how are we going to support them? How will the many new hires develop the necessary expertise to truly make a difference for the English language learners, especially since some of them are brand new and they don't have the experience that the other ELSTs, some that were not rehired, had? Okay. Let's see. Learners distributed are among 130 schools. Okay, number 3. Concern, let me see, what am I missing? Number 2. Okay, ELEs, they call them now ELEs instead of ELSTs. ELEs develop expertise through job-embedded coaching, integrated team meetings, professional learning academies. OLA hired 7 new English learner, next one. There it is. 7 new English language instructional resource teachers, which are the ELEs, which is 18% of the remaining, which there were 82% were former ELSTs. So the new ones are only 18%. OLA strategically distributed the site support among the ELEs, and they now support up to 5 schools each. OLA's configuration of the instructional support for the 4 branches: early literacy language acquisition, English learners, early literacy language acquisition, English learners, and multilinguals, and research instruction curriculum design. The LEs support English learners through each of the student-centered coaching cycles models, which are from TK through 12th grade. Concern number 3, English learner specialized programs. About 1,700 students are identified as English learners with IEPs, individual educational programs, special ed students. DLAC supports a partnership between the Special Education Department and the Office of Language Acquisition, where the case managers or the IEP teams continue to receive training to support the academic achievement of English language learners with their IEPs. We need to make sure that the IEPs have high goals and that the students are achieving the most that they can in the time that they are in school, and we make progress. Response number 3. Student-centered coaching cycles is an integrated support model that provides a collaborative environment that bridges OLA's, ELEs, and the special ed resources teachers to share expertise and build the capacity of classroom teachers, case managers, through co-teaching, co-planning, and data collection on a focused student. So they focus on the student and make sure that they're getting what that student needs to be able to make progress. The Office of Language Acquisition will continue to work with the Special Ed Department to provide professional development around the comprehensive evaluation process, specifically for the English learners. So focus students, including English learners and students with IEPs. Concern number 4, student safety and security. That's very important. How will this district build a climate of safety for all students and families? How can they feel so safe in the schools, especially with all the tragedy that's going on in Las Vegas and other places where people could just come on campus and shoot people just because they get mad? How will schools address the fears also of the immigrant children? The immigrant children and their parents are very concerned with the situation with President Trump and the anti-immigrant sentiment in this country. Those are our students, and I know that the board is making an effort to make it a safe haven for all our students, so that way they feel that they are safe in the schools and that they should not fear deportation because they go to our schools. Are the counselors well trained to support the vulnerable students? Yes, I hope so. How will values of peace be taught and emphasized in each classroom, where they value and respect everybody and everybody's differences? What exactly can parents expect to see? Well, hopefully they can expect to see that students are being treated equally with respect, no matter what their ethnicity is, and their culture, and their language, that they all are treated as equals. Okay, response to concerns number 4. San Diego Unified School District hosted the Celebration of Lights event honoring all communities and cultures, and that was a very successful event, but of course we could always have more parents and community attend, but not everybody has transportation to attend the events here. I mean, over there at the Ballard Center. A letter was sent to all employees reminding them that everyone is entitled to public education regardless of immigration status. A second letter was sent to all families with the same message. And it included that Immigration and Custom Enforcement, ICE, and Border Patrol are prohibited, again, prohibited, they're not allowed, from us accessing our school campuses. So that way the students and family feel safe. DLAC invited the Mexican Consulate and the American Civil Liberties Union, ACLU, to present to the parents on immigration so that they could know their rights. Unfortunately, not that many parents attended, but we want to make that accessible to more parents. Response to concern number 4. Superintendent Cindy Martin met with ICE and the Border Patrol officials to confirm that they will continue to follow federal guidelines which prohibit them from any enforcement activities at school sites. The Board of Education passed a series of pro-immigrant resolutions outlining everything mentioned above and the opposition to the construction of the border wall. But it's still being built with a lot of money. And they did not pick anybody from San Diego to build a wall. Does that make sense? No, it doesn't. But anyways, the district...
Yes, it does. We don't want people from
But
San Diego
it's going
building
to take away money from here that could have went to
Yeah.
business here.
They don't do business with our
But
district.
you know how it
if
is.
They participate.
The district provides anti-bullying training as well. And let me see what else. Let me see what else. We're missing some more. Let me see. Nope, not yet. I have some more. Okay, concern, let me see. Number 5, English learners and GATE. This year, 20% of English learners were qualified as GATE to the GATE program. Remember that the GATE is the gifted, it's part of the president. It's,
Point of
wait,
order.
I just want to say.
Point
Yes,
of
sir.
order. President Barrera, I have
Yeah,
a point of
hold
order.
on a second, Valentina. Yeah.
I believe that none of the board members received any additional concerns or responses from staff.
Well, it was,
And I believe,
it was,
right, and
it
hold
was
on,
not
I'm-
there for.
I'm having-
Valentina,
I'm
hold on
talking-
just one second.
Valentina, hold on, I'm
Yeah.
talking to President Barrera. And it's my understanding that in order for this to be a full Brown Act meeting, we would need to be fully apprised and the public fully apprised of those other additional items.
I just want to say basically that English learners are also parents of children that are gifted and talented, not only the special ed, but also looking at the other spectrum. And that's why I think that that should have been included.
Okay.
Okay, and the final remarks, which I don't know, it's not there, but here it is. Thank you. The English learners are San Diego Unified's English learners are extremely diverse in their ethnicity, language, background, socioeconomic status, quality of prior schooling, and English language proficiency, who many of them have first languages and literacy knowledge and skills that boost their acquisition of language and literacy in a second language. They ultimately bring a set of talents and cultural practices and perspectives that enrich our schools and society. DLAC believes that the district must offer the right programs and services to build on this vast reservoir of talents by providing additional time, instructional support, by devoting the supplemental funds to support our English learners. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Sylvia, and thank you, Valentina. Yeah. Board members, do you have any? Yeah, Dr. Whitehurst-Payne.
I'd like to just go back and park for a little bit on the numbers. So we went from 39, rather we went from 47 to 39 resource teachers. Is that what I'm reading?
Yes. We had 47, and we have 39 now. Yeah, that is correct. We went from 47 resource teachers last year with the budget cuts, and we are now down to 39. That's
And our
correct.
student, the number of students went down from, let's see, the LT,
The LTELs? Well, remember, that's a moving number. So as of September, when the data was extracted, because students are always turning that sixth year, right? Every single month we have students, so we would have to run it again. But as of September, we had approximately 3,100 students that were designated as LTELs. That's correct.
Okay, and hopefully the data are at the same point in time, like 2016 was that as of September 2016?
Correct, approximately the same time, yes.
Okay, so if you only have 3,100 and now the number's down, the number of resource teachers is down, so they have a smaller population to cover.
Well, we are still supporting all of our English learners, but we have been able to restructure our department in the way that in the past, our ELSTs, former ELSTs, now known as ELIs, were supporting 12 schools, and they were supporting K through 12. But because of the way that we reimagined our department, they're now only supporting 5 schools instead of 12 or 13, and they're now only focusing on a grade span. So some of them are working with pre-K to second grade. Other ones are working in elementary. Other ones are working in middle school, and other ones are working in high school. So even though we have less, we have maximized what we have, and they're actually supporting less schools than they were supporting last year.
So everybody's getting some service.
And we're seeing outcomes improve, actually, for English learners. Yeah. Vice President Beiser, did you?
Yeah, I just want to go back to slide number 6. Could we put that back up? Slide number 6, please. Yeah.
Thank you.
To kind of piggyback on what Dr. Whitehurst-Payne was referring to was taking a look at the data. And I remember back when we were considering some changes and adjustments in the way that we help students, that for years we hadn't shown any dramatic change in the number of LTELs or long-term English learners, that for whatever reason the systems of support or the programmatic offerings to those students wasn't really making a difference. And so then I remember Superintendent Martin and a variety of other people brought forward some evidence and research that proved that with a different kind of delivery system and different kind of instruction and things like that, that did result in a dramatic increase in student performance academically. And so now that we look at this, and see, this is a good opportunity for us to check in and say, well, now let's look at the data. Did it make a difference? And I think that that's pretty evident, that the reclassification rate has increased. The number of LTELs has decreased a dramatic amount, in my opinion. Obviously, we want it to be, even less. But I think that this shows that the proposal and the decisions that our district made to try to help some of these students to have better, improved academic outcomes is bearing some fruit. And I look forward to looking at these numbers next year and seeing, are we continuing the trend, and then also being willing to continue to adjust and see, are there other things we can do to better meet the needs of these kids that are not being reached? Thanks.
And I just want to remind you that we're moving into a new assessment, so that'll be a new baseline for us. The CELT is gone now, and this is the last CELT data that you will receive. The new LPAC data will be presented next year.
Terrific. Thank you, Dr. McQuarrie.
Yep.
Thank you.
Also, if I recall correctly, another accountability tool is how well are reclassifieds doing on their annual assessments. And as I recall looking back, our students are doing better on average than our regular English speakers. So we know that the reclassification is working, the program is working, and it's, I want to commend the department in the work that you're doing and making that happen.
Yes, and I also want to remind you that our graduation rate for our reclassified students in the last 2 years has been at 96%.
Wow.
And our English learner reclassification criteria went from 70, I believe it was 73% to 81%. And this is the first time in 15 years that it has been in the 80s.
Right.
Then just I know people assume we're just talking about Spanish English learners, but we do have other languages. And are other languages having a similar results? Do we have a sense of that?
Yeah, all of the English learners includes all of the languages. We don't separate it by language. We can, but that data, so when we say 96%, it's all the languages, or 81%, it's all languages.
So let's arrive here with another language other than English, which may not be Spanish. They are still having their needs met, and they're being reclassified across all of those different subgroups.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Evans?
Yeah, just briefly, sort of repeating, but we have our goals as far as graduation rates. We have our goals as far as K-3 literacy. And the most dramatic thing here to me, again, is the number here. Even in 1 year, going from 3,900 to 3,100 long-term English learners. And just like we would like to approach 100% graduation rate, I believe we really want to approach zero for the number of long-term English learners, because we believe with all the immersion programs and language learning, acquisition, everything that we know, that it doesn't need to take 6 years for a person to become proficient in another language. So, but we're definitely on the right track. I don't know if you recall the number, but when we first talked about this a few years ago,
Yes, it was
8,000.
8,000.
8,000.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a really focused effort and successful.
Yes.
Thanks.
But there could also be students that are going back to Mexico because they've been deported, et cetera.
Well, right, if the number of students in the district that are English learners is going down, that's obviously going to have an effect, too.
And that they're also moving to charter schools or private schools.
So thank you again to Valentina and to Sylvia for your great work. It's tremendous effort I know that you put in and that the whole DLAC puts in, and it's making a difference in the lives of our students, and we appreciate the partnership with OLA and with the district. Thank you very much, and thanks for the report tonight. Thank you. Okay, we will now move to item I1.
I'll move item I1.
Okay, and do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and this is a presentation of our climate mitigation adaptation plan. And Superintendent Martin, do you want to kick us off?
Thank you. While the team is coming up here, I'd just like to say that the global climate change is definitely going to have a real impact on the lives of our students. That for this reason, this board has established an environmental sustainability advisory committee that did some work over some time. And when we analyzed our greenhouse gas emissions and developed our measures to reduce impact on the environment, and that was one of our dream big ideas for a sustainable future. If you remember, that report came forward. So tonight our staff and partners at Climate Action Campaign and the University of San Diego Energy Policy Initiative Center are here to discuss the district's greenhouse gas inventory and the strategies that we're putting in place to reduce emissions. And this is follow-up. It's another night where it's concept to action. Dr. Motel in that presentation, this is another one where we had some dream big ideas of a committee that came together over time, and we want to give you an update on that tonight.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Just to open, we want to thank everybody for their participation. This has been and is continually something that certainly the Board of Education has prioritized, and this is a drumbeat that's been happening for a while, and certainly foreshadowing where we are now and the direction we're going. I also wanted to add, as the team has prepared information, that we are projecting out to 2035, and I think the one thing that we know is that change is consistent, and so these are our best estimates based on the progress that we plan to make, and certainly with time, especially if you're projecting out to 2035, we will continue to react as variables change and elements progress along with us that are either in or outside of our control. So with that, I want to turn it over to Lee for this and the team for this brief presentation.
Thanks, Greg. Well, after experiencing a couple of 100-degree days in a row, this is a great time to talk about how we can discuss how we can all work together to address climate change. San Diego Unified cares about our students and the environment that they live in. This climate adaptation mitigation plan is aligned with the City of San Diego's climate action plan, and It was one of the dream big ideas for the sustainable future that we developed with the Environmental Sustainability Advisory Committee. It was comprised of district staff, local scientists, and industry experts. The plan was developed by the Climate Action Campaign and the University of San Diego Energy Policy Initiative Center, EPIC. And tonight we have Nicole Capritz, who's the Executive Director of Climate Action Campaign, and Dr. Nilmani Silvasen, Assistant Director of EPIC, are here with us tonight. And we'll invite Nicole up in a few minutes to provide some supplemental information. Also, I want to say, since addressing climate change involves everyone, students, parents, staff, we met with Laura Schumacher and Derek Borner of the PTA Council. Laura Schumacher is the PTA Council's Climate Action Committee Chair. She's here tonight as well. So tonight we're going to review the district's greenhouse gas inventory and the basis for inventory calculations, report the results of surveys that look at staff and parent perceptions related to greenhouse gas emission activities, review strategies and policies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, provide an update to the board on the progress of some of the key district initiatives that are underway, and finally look at our potential to reduce overall greenhouse gas emissions over time. So this graph depicts the district's greenhouse gas inventory for fiscal year 2015. We have an inventory of 74,742 metric tons of CO2 equivalent. And as you can see, the majority of our emissions come from purchased electricity and electricity consumption and student employee transportation. There's also stationary natural gas combustion, which is heat and water heaters. And so looking ahead, how can we improve our carbon footprint? Well, these are some key strategies that we can use. And if you approve this item, these are the key strategies that we're going to use to address San Diego Unified's greenhouse gas emissions: reducing energy use in buildings with energy-efficient mechanical and lighting systems, generating more renewable solar energy, participating in community choice aggregation program to purchase renewable energy, reducing greenhouse gas emissions with more efficient student and employee transportation, and reducing greenhouse gas emissions through solid waste diversions and energy-efficient water fixtures. And now I'm going to invite Nicole Capritz up to provide an overview of some of the plan strategies and also to review their surveys of parent and district employee practices and perceptions.
Good evening. I'm happy to be here. It was a pleasure to work on this project with Lee and his team. I think one of the most exciting elements about this project was the survey that we did to communicate with the parents and the employees to learn about their investment and interest in climate action, as well as their commuting habits, because the district didn't have that data. So the survey was kind of the only mechanism available to us to identify, so how are kids getting to school and how are employees getting to school. So as you can see from this slide, 92% of people are driving alone to school, to their job, and it's about 87% countywide, so you're kind of in line, but it's a little bit higher. But clearly, that's an area of improvement that's possible. And we had a really robust response. I just want to comment on that. At the bottom left-hand corner, you see there are 2,212 employees who responded, which is a pretty representative sample, so we have confidence in the outcomes that we got through this survey. So the next slide is the result of what the employees said they felt would be some alternatives that they would like to see as options, and some of these they put out themselves. We didn't even have as an option in the survey, and they kind of said, hey, what about a van pool program? So clearly there seems to be an interest among your employees about providing a van pool program, a guaranteed ride home, subsidized mass transit passes, and bike lanes and sidewalk improvements, which of course has a lot of public health benefits as well. So that's interesting. And then we move on to the next slide, which is...
Just one second. What's guaranteed ride home?
A guaranteed ride home program, I'm not as familiar with that idea, but I believe somehow if they get a ride to their job for free, through carpool or Lyft
So if I
or some
got
other.
dropped off, I'd be
There's some kind of
guaranteed that somebody
guarantee
would take me home?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know of examples where that works, but apparently that's an option. Yeah, there's Uber, of course, but I mean, this is like guaranteed. There's some kind of additional step that the district would take. So this next slide shows you on the right-hand side just how committed your employees are to having the school district take action on climate. About 76% of those who responded to the survey indicated that they would like the district to take action in the same way that you're doing right now. And then I think it's interesting on the left where you see where they sort of thought their role was in their 92% driving alone to work in terms of their impact on the carbon emissions. And so there's an area there for education, perhaps, about how actually the commute is a driver of the school district's carbon footprint. Then moving on to the parents, again, we had a robust response. You see in the left-hand corner, 7,500 parents responded. Again, so we're confident in the results that we received. You also see, similar to employees, that a lot of folks are driving their kids to school, but a lot of folks are walking as well. So I think it shows that the Safe Routes to School programs are working, and that there is an interest in continuing to provide the opportunity for people to walk their kids to school, or for the students to walk with themselves. And the next slide, I think demonstrates that, unfortunately, even for elementary schools, I think the takeaway here is that 50% of elementary school kids live less than 1 mile away, but 70% of parents drive them to school. I mean, clearly, either somehow it's not safe, or they're not seeing the opportunity, but there is that option that should be available for folks to actually be able to walk their child to school. And then again, still continuing on the parent survey results of the next slide, you also see the same kind of enthusiasm and interest in climate action that you saw with your employees. Over 70% of parents saying, hey, yeah, please take action. We want to protect future generations. But then again, kind of a disconnect about what their role in the commuting is in terms of their impact on carbon footprint. So again, just an opportunity for education as you move forward in your implementation to talk about transportation. So as Lee mentioned, the next slide is really just kind of an overview of the main set of strategies, and he already went over them. But as you can see, federal and state regulations will get you a long way towards your carbon reductions, so that's good. It's a lot of the work is being done at the higher level, but there's still a gap. There's still a need for local district action, and the single most important strategy is going to be around the 100% clean electricity goal that you have, increasing the amount of renewable energy that you generate on site here on your campuses, as well as what electricity is on the grid that you're using in your school district buildings. And then the next one, of course, we just talked about how transportation is an opportunity, and there's increasing alternative modes of transportation for commuters is an important strategy. Just continuing along. The next slide is, again, just sort of zeroing in on what your specific opportunities are. We just talked about it, increasing renewables, increasing alternative modes of transportation, achieving zero waste. I know that's hugely popular with the students and the community. And then, of course, some of your own transit vehicles, some of your own vehicle emission fleets, turning them into cleaner vehicles, and then increasing water efficiency. So the next set of slides, I'm not going to go in detail at all, but it's just at least showing you the roadmap for how we actually got to the carbon reductions that this plan will achieve if implemented. So it's, there was a lot of work that went into this, actually, a lot of data gathering, and then sort of identifying, okay, what are the current conditions, and then what are the, series of steps we need to take, what are the assumptions we need to use to actually get the carbon reductions we need to hit that 2035 target. So the first slide is just about the what you need to do to increase your efficiency in renewable energy to achieve 100%. And again, it's about improving the efficiency of your buildings, increasing clean electricity, and again, focusing on community choice energy as the mechanism to help you get to the 100%. Next slide is about increasing alternative modes of transportation and student and employee commuting. And we talked about some of those strategies in the survey. And keeping going, transitioning to a cleaner, more efficient vehicle fleet. Electric buses and electric, are becoming kind of high profile and increasingly attractive opportunity for school districts and other institutions. And then keeping the momentum going with achieving zero waste in San Diego Unified's operations, increasing water efficiency, and then at the end they have the discussion about how federal and state regulations are getting you a lot of where you need to go. And Lee, I'll let you take it.
Okay, and I want to just highlight a few things that we're doing already that are getting us along on the path to a more sustainable future. Currently we're implementing sustainable practices in our building programs. We utilize the Collaborative for High Performance Schools, which is a nonprofit organization dedicated to schools, making schools a better place to learn. We incorporate the sustainable design, water conservation, energy efficiency in making the best possible schools, the most energy efficient schools. We're also designing to our new California Green Building Standards Code, which is Title 24, Part 11, which are very high standards the state of California has set for constructing new buildings, making them more energy efficient. In addition, we've to our existing photovoltaic capacity, we're installing new district-owned and operated solar systems. We installed the first 8 schools this summer. In 2018, we're going to add 12 more schools. So these 20 new systems will bring the annual district energy production to 15 megawatt hours, which will create a total annual CO2 offset of 10,000 metric tons of CO2 equivalent. And this is only the beginning, and we're already planning phase 3. So those are the first 2 phases. So we'll have 10 more schools that are in the planning stages. And then also Drew and his team are working through Prop 39 to add 5 more to that. So we're going to add 15 more on top of the 20 that you see right there.
So I guess I'll...
You want to highlight that?
Sure. So I'll jump in and just beyond the capital bond program, we're the fortunate beneficiary of Prop 39 funds, the California Clean Energy Act, a little different Prop 39 than you're used to talking about. But that has provided us funding for energy conservation projects. Our biggest focus so far has been LED light fixtures, converting fluorescent fixtures to LED. We're over 20,000 fixtures that we've replaced, and we're still going. It's been a tremendous effort for our guys, and we're really excited about that. As Lee touched on, through the Prop 39 funding, we will get into some solar to complement what's happening with the bond. And then one of the other bigger components for us is also air conditioning upgrades and retrofits of some of our older air conditioning systems, replacing them with new, current, more energy efficient systems. And I'll turn it back to Lee to wrap it up.
Okay. So here we are. This graph depicts...
Before we do that, I've got a question.
Sure.
So as we implement more efficient energy systems, that also means high technology. And I'm wondering, what is the maintenance impact and the cost related to maintaining an upscaled, more efficient building versus a traditional building?
So I can touch on some of that. I mean, I think there's everything from replacing a fluorescent fixture with an LED light fixture. Our intention and objective is we're not going to have to touch that for many years to come. It's got a much longer life. But what we also are doing, there are more sophisticated controls for that light fixture. It's sensing daylight, it's sensing motion, and that does get a little more complicated. Part of the Prop 39 funding we can spend on training, and we are working towards that with our folks to kind of keep pace with all that is happening that comes with this. So that is where we're trying to get, so our maintenance staff is ready for it.
So this final slide depicts the estimate of CO2 emissions over time, and you can see that the top line there is the baseline emission of 74,742 metric tons of CO2 equivalent. That's where we are today. And you can see that there's targets, the 2020 and 2035 targets, those are based on the city's climate action plan. And you can see without any local action, we do reduce district greenhouse gas emissions with the state and federal mandates. However, in order to exceed or improve beyond, reduce our emissions beyond the targets, we need to take local action. And so the strategies that are presented in this presentation, if we implement these strategies, we have the potential to reduce our emissions to the equivalent of about 27,700 metric tons. So from 74,000 to 27,700 tons by 2035. And with that, I'll take questions.
Fantastic. We've got a couple of speakers, so Laura Schumacher and Christine Herbeck. You've got 3 minutes each.
Good evening. My name is Laura Schumacher, and I'm here on behalf of the San Diego Unified Council of PTAs. We have PTAs in over 70 schools in the district, and we represent over 10,000 members. And I'm here today to voice our strong support for this climate mitigation and adaptation goals. When Lee invited us to get a preview of the plan, we just got really excited because back in 2015, we tried to put climate change on the PTA legislative agenda, and we were successful. We got a resolution passed, and one of the goals was to make our schools models of sustainability. And it's just exciting to think that San Diego Unified is going to be a leader in this area, and also that our students are going to see sustainability right in their own classrooms. So we really support this plan. We think there are a lot of opportunities to partner, because obviously you're going to need all hands on deck. You're going to need employees, administrators, students, obviously, but you're also going to need parents and community members, because they play a big role in how kids get to school and what they put in their lunch if you're trying to get to zero waste. So, I think you are in charge of 130,000 students, and I know your number one goal is to make sure that they graduate from high school and they're prepared to enter the world as productive citizens. But by creating a plan like this, you're helping to make sure that that world that they enter in will have a stable climate and a healthy atmosphere. So thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you. Christine Herbeck, is Christine here? Oh, no problem. Sounds good. Okay, questions or comments from board members? Dr. Whiterspain?
I think the idea of us having a plan that's workable for the city, for the community, for schools, is a wonderful idea. I guess my questions kind of tie in because we have here the community choice aggregation program, and I'm a little bit uncertain about that. Has the CPUC weighed in on this already? Were there notes about what it would be if we went with them versus this community choice aggregation? I remember a couple of weeks ago, maybe now it's about a month ago, there was a presentation at the Catfish Club about this whole community plan, which is in this plan, and it was talking about the fact that the city would take over offering this electrical grid and so forth plan rather than having a private company in charge as now. My only concern is that when we tend to take things offline, for example, I'll just give you one example that really troubles me, potholes in our city. We don't seem to be able to handle just simple straightening out potholes and paving our roads and making ourselves successful with our streets looking nice. The homeless, I commend the mayor. He is stepping up to the plate with our president of the council there doing something for homeless people for the first time and really addressing those issues. Not that they're accomplishing everything that needs to be, but at least they're acknowledging it and moving along that pathway. And so I don't want us to get off into something with our electricity so that we're at the mercy of, well, we can't do it because we have a salary issue, or we have this issue, or whatever, and then we're in a problem with not having electricity. So I hope that by our supporting a community choice aggregation program, that we're not putting ourselves in a bind. And I don't know what the problem is down there in Puerto Rico, but they can't, for some reason, get their electrical grid back online. And I don't want us to get off, taking that offline, so that we're at the mercy of and not having any power for a month or whatever it's been for them. I'm not saying I understand all these issues, but it just concerns me that we haven't had a weigh-in yet from the CPUC to find out whether or not that would be a better choice for us to look at or what.
Well, I'm not an expert on community choice aggregation, but I've done a little bit of research on it, and maybe at some point when Nicole can come in and chime in and kind of supply some background for this. But what it really is it's a different entity. So right now, SDG&E purchase the power on our behalf. So it's really a different entity purchasing the power. SDG&E still, under a CCA plan, would maintain the grid, maintain all the wires, the transmission and distribution wires system. But the actual power would be procured through a different entity, and it would provide various choices. So, and I did talk to the people in Sonoma County. Sonoma and Marin County were the first counties to develop CCAs, and I wanted to get their feedback on what CCAs were all about and their experiences. And what I got from feedback, and I think there's 13 or so entities now in the state, but originally there were just 2 when I first started doing research on CCAs. And what I heard was that basically it allows for different choices. So if you live in, say, Sonoma County, you can purchase power from PG&E, that's their power provider, or you can buy it from their community choice aggregator, and you have 2 different choices of power from the aggregator. You can choose a plan where it's 100% renewable or sustainable energy sources, so the power, they purchase power on your behalf from 100% sustainable sources, or they purchase a blended plan where it's a mixture of non-renewables and renewables. The mixture of that plan is the renewable content is higher than what PG&E is providing currently, and the rate for that mixed plan is lower on a per kilowatt hour basis, is what I got, the feedback I got. The PG&E plan is just sort of a baseline, and then if you really are interested in truly green energy, you can buy 100% renewable energy, but that energy costs more money at this time. And now there may be a point at some time in the future where the cost of that electricity goes down. But the actual reliability of the system is maintained by PG&E, and PG&E still collects a part of the rate to maintain the grid, if you will.
I wonder,
Nicole, do you have any?
Nicole, did you want to speak a little bit to?
I don't know if you have any more background on that. That's my.
Yeah, so Community Choice Energy is basically a program that's been widely embraced statewide because it provides the opportunity for the first time for local institutions and governments to provide electricity on behalf of all their residents and businesses. So we're going from a for-profit model to a nonprofit model, so a public purpose model. So families and school districts for the first time have an option, have a choice about who their electricity provider is, which is something we believe families deserve. But at this point, it is a tried and true program. There are over 70 cities who are currently under a community choice program. I believe 8 counties now, and next year, LA County, Western Riverside, and Coachella Valley are going to launch community choice programs. And really, it's because they provide cleaner, cheaper electricity. And at the end of the day, right, if you're looking at your bottom line, that matters. And in addition to the fact that it's able to accelerate clean electricity on the grid, and you have local control about where that electricity comes from. So it's sort of changing, like who's owning, operating, and benefiting from our multi-billion-dollar energy system. And this is a way to sort of bifurcate the roles so the utility still delivers the electricity safely and reliably. So we're not going to have a situation like they're experiencing in Puerto Rico, but at least the local governments, the community, families can make the decision about what kind of electricity is on the grid, what the cost of that electricity is. And I think one of the unique benefits is that that revenue that's currently going to the executives of the utility would be reinvested back into the community because it's a public purpose entity that would be managing that program. So existing community choice programs have been really adopting innovative, creative programs. For example, in the city of Lancaster, for school districts, they have created a specific program that allows the Lancaster School District to wheel their power, their solar electricity among different buildings to get a better rate of return. So not only is the school district in Lancaster saving money, but they're actually getting a higher rate of return from their solar installations. And that's just kind of one of those opportunities that presents itself with community choice. It's kind of a fresh start in looking at, okay, how do we set up a system, an energy system where everybody wins? And I think that's the way community choice was set up, as a win-win, a partnership between the utility and the community, but again, so that everybody's sort of getting benefits and opportunities as a result.
Thank you. Jim.
Just to clarify this about solar system, because we have a solar system, but it goes through the regular power company. If we have solar systems in the school system, we can then be our own generator, but not go through the main, we would still go through SDG&E to
so the
on the grid.
So what happens is, let's say during the day, if the school is consuming more electricity than the system is generating, then obviously that extra power is made up by SDG&E during the but many times during the day, the opposite is true. We're producing more power on a sunny day than we're consuming. And so the power flows back onto the grid, and other people utilize that power, and we get credit. So the meter sort of turns backwards. And during the summertime, when school's not in session, we're generating a lot of power because the days are longer and there's less cloudy days. And so all that power is being, and so when we size our our solar systems, we factor all those are factors that we consider. But right now we're connected to the grid, and the grid acts sort of as a storage battery or a place for the extra electricity to flow. And it also acts as a support system on a rainy day or a cloudy day, or when we need power at night.
Yeah, and if I could just follow up on Dr. Whitehurst-Payne's questions. I guess, Lee, do we foresee a day, and maybe it's in partnership with a community choice aggregation system, but do we foresee a day where we're actually a net generator of power and actually it becomes a revenue mechanism for the school district?
Dream big.
It's
Dream big.
It's possible.
Yeah.
It's definitely possible. And we
Yes.
have, if we continue to reduce, it's really, we're working from two different
Yes.
directions. So
Yeah.
we're reducing our consumption and we're increasing our production. So little by little, we're working from both directions
Yeah.
towards that day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. I think that's great. I'm sorry, other board members.
Yeah.
Questions or comments? Dr. Evans?
Yeah, I know different things we've done. For example, the sort of the zero waste goals. There's been a lot accomplished at the schools with the students through the reduction of waste and focusing on recycling. And I'm just thinking about a similar thing about here with the walking to school. Now we can all have. Say, down with the oil companies, don't use fossil fuels, and we can put that bumper sticker on the back of our gas-powered car as we all drive to a school board meeting from across the city. But we do have opportunities with our schools and our students. I mean, first of all, when we're talking about quality neighborhood schools, a quality school in every neighborhood, as we increase the number of students who are going to school close to home, that's going to reduce the carbon footprint. And I think there's a lot more we can do to promote even walking to school. I think, some schools before school, they have a running club where they run. Mm-hmm. So the parents drive them. half a mile to school, and then they run around the track, 4 times or something. And so, I mean, I'm just saying that the success of the waste and recycling program, that there's probably a lot that can be done to encourage students and parents to walk to school instead of these long lines lined up at the schools with all the cars running and their emissions. That's another possibility.
Other comments or questions?
Yeah, thank you, President Barrera. I want to thank Laura Shoemake. I remember when you were the president of the PTA back in 2009 and 2010, and we had several meetings to talk about visions of helping San Diego Unified Schools to be better, and today is a great day. And I remember those initial conversations we had back then. I also want to thank Lee Dolgeroff and everybody on the staff that has been working tirelessly for years to try to help figure out how do we do a better job at our school district to reduce consumption, because that can have more of an impact on our carbon footprint than anything else. And it helps us save a lot of money on our electric bill, which is money that we then can use back in the classrooms where it belongs. So thank you very much to all the staff. I also want to thank Nicole Capretz and her team for years of work on this. I remember in July of 2015 when I brought forward the climate action resolution. And this board voted unanimously. Dr. McQuarrie was a good partner in that, along with Dr. Evans and President Barrera. And now we've come from July 2015 to October 2017, and now we've got the data. We've had an exhaustive partnership with community. The survey data, I think, is phenomenal. I'm really looking forward to continuing the work, because after we vote tonight, it's not over, right? Beginning. The work has only begun, and the work will continue as long as we have an average global temperature every year that exceeds the previous year. We've got work to do. There are a couple things that I did want to share that are new. Jerrick Elementary School now has, for a while, walking school buses to school now, led by parent and community volunteers, where the students that live within a mile all walk, and there's a line, and then they stop, and then the next student comes out of their house, gets in line, and they keep going. And so this is a great, safe option that can be replicated. We can talk about that and see how other folks feel about having walking buses to their local neighborhood school. Also, just recently at Vista Grande Elementary School, which actually was the school where students came forward 7 years ago and called on us to ban millions of styrofoam lunch trays. Vista Grande just received an award from the state for conservation efforts. And at that meeting, we talked about how the state is working to create subsidies so that schools can purchase electric buses. And hopefully that would then be green electricity and reduce our carbon footprint even more that way. I know that there is ongoing conversations right now, not necessarily a part of this specific thing, but about increasing the facilities and the education and the partnerships. There are grants, SANDAG grants, quite a bit of money out there I've heard, to help facilitate and encourage bike-to-school programs. And I know I've met with the superintendent, Cindy Martin, on this, and that we're continuing. This is one of many other opportunities we have in our school district to try to encourage other ways of commuting to school. So I just want to thank everybody for continuing this march in the right direction, and look forward to voting in support of this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice President Buzzer. Dr. McQuarrie?
I just want to remind us of the statement that was made earlier this evening from the students from Mission Bay about the use of plastic straws. So maybe that's the next big effort and that we can take a look at.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And then also, they were talking about that when kids get plastic silverware with their meal, it's wrapped in a plastic bag, and that's just the life of that plastic bag is like 2 seconds. and then it's in the garbage, in the landfill.
So I think one of the critical points of information coming back from the survey is how much opportunity there is in transportation in reducing the carbon footprint. So I know that we're already, and we want to maybe kind of elevate the discussions that we're having with OSS and with our bus drivers about neighborhood routes to school and having that more of that conversation. And that's something that, we've talked about for a few years. And so I applaud the superintendent and Drew and everybody in continuing that conversation. But I think it would be exciting to see a business plan put together around employee transportation. Could we put a business plan together that would look at how do we provide options for transportation for our employees, given the results coming back from the survey? And I would imagine that revenue sources would include certainly, do we have employees that would want to chip in, and help pay for some of that transportation? But it would be great to work with our partners to talk about where could there potentially be ongoing revenue sources, or could we even, approach whether it's philanthropic or state, potential revenue sources together to talk about if we were to create an actual plan, if we were to do what Google does, or some of these tech companies, especially in the Bay Area, where they go and, pick their employees up with, van pools and take them. But if we were to do that in our own system with our own bus drivers, and we could identify ongoing both capital, revenue to start up the plan, but ongoing operating revenue, I think that would be an exciting thing to take a look at. So I don't know if the superintendent, if you would want to, start having conversations about the development of a business plan for supporting, giving our own employees options for transportation. Yeah, no, thank you. Okay, and with that, I think, yes, Dr. Whitehurst-Payne.
This is a sidebar, but the survey data are fascinating because we've talked about this sleep study and wanting schools to look at some of their, making that switch, and they extrapolated the data in terms of elementary, middle, and high school. So schools may want to clusters may want to take a look at those data to see. I'm not sure if you've done it by cluster, or you could go back and look at them via cluster, but at least the overall general trend, you could look at them to help them with elementary school students going earlier than the middle and high school. And I like the idea of them walking. A walking bus, as you called it, I think.
Yep, that's what they
so that's a great idea. So thank you.
Great. Well, we have a motion and a second to move this plan forward. With no further discussion, please vote. All right. Thank you to our partners. And following up, related, we've got a resolution in the matter of the support for the adoption and implementation of a community choice aggregation program in the city of San Diego. Do we have a motion?
I'll move item H2.
Second.
And we've got a second, and we've got a few public speakers. Christine Herbeck, Pam Barrett, Will, can't quite read your last name, Will, and Nicole Kapritz. Please come forward. You have 2 minutes each.
Hi, I'm Christine Herbeck. Thanks for hanging in there and listening to me at the end of this meeting, towards the end, I guess. I'm a volunteer with the Sierra Club. I am also the proud parent of 2 kids who attend schools in the district. One goes to a K-8 charter, and the other one goes to Claremont. She's a freshman at Claremont High School, actually, and she now walks to school, yay, which means I don't have to wait in that line anymore. I'm here to encourage the board to support the adoption and implementation of community choice aggregation. I noticed in the discussion about the climate mitigation plan that there were several assumptions that were made, and one of them is that we would have the option of participating in community choice aggregation. So it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me to have a climate mitigation plan if we don't have some of the tools that we need to actually meet those goals. So that's one really obvious reason why I think that the board should consider supporting that. Two main reasons I got involved in this. One, obviously having children, sometimes I lay awake at night and think about the world they're going to inherit. So I applaud the board, especially Kevin, because I know we've met before, in having the being forward-thinking enough to understand that global climate change is indeed a children's issue and addressing it, because I'm not sure how many school boards actually understand that. So first of all, so that was my first reason for that, is the environmental reasons. But the other reason is because I've invested a lot of time and money in my kids' education and in their schools, and it frustrates me that money that could be going to the classroom some of it has been diverted to pay exorbitant energy bills and to fight legal battles against the monopoly of SDG&E for trying to undermine our solar program and implementing policies that financially harm the schools. So both of those reasons I got involved in this. So I just hope that you guys will vote to support our city's adoption of this CCA. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Pam Barrett, and I live in Claremont. I'm talking to you about CCA or CCE and feeling that you should maybe know where I came from. I was a chemistry teacher 40 years ago in the 1970s, and I taught my chemistry students about climate change and global warming then. And it's taken so long for people to really get serious about it, and I'm so glad you are. What concerns me most is the fact that SDG&E is a monopoly, and it's a for-profit organization. Both of those things make it very likely that it doesn't serve us well. They can make a decision without telling us what it is, take that decision to the PUC up in Northern California, and then that body of 5 people who are not elected will make a decision, and that body, the PUC, is under investigation for corruption as we speak. This process is bad because it lacks transparency and accountability. And for those reasons, and many others, I think we should not continue with our present system. Since under our present system, we can only get our energy or electricity from a monopoly and for-profit organization, it's no wonder we don't get the good quality service that we deserve and need. No wonder this has taken 40 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have Will? Are you here still? Yes. If not, Nicole, go ahead.
Nicole Capritz, Climate Action Campaign. I'm just putting my advocacy hat on now. So, sorry, I already spoke a little bit about community choice, but I at least wanted to highlight that this is kind of a once-in-a-generation opportunity where we have the chance to actually sort of bifurcate the roles between the utility and the community and provide those benefits and opportunities to families and school districts that deserve them. And a reminder that the City of San Diego has completed a full technical study that evaluated, what would the impacts be for moving forward with community choice citywide, and what they found was that there would be all benefits. You would have lower rates, you would have an accelerated clean energy, we'd be able to design local clean energy build out with local jobs, and again, you'd have millions of dollars in revenue to design programs, innovative programs that can benefit the school district in exactly the way Chair Brewer was describing about how we could make your solar systems a revenue generator. And that's, again, like that fresh start, that blank slate that would be available to you. And again, it's kind of hard to grasp because it's so new and we haven't experienced it before, but it just seems like this is that, this is that one moment in time, given where we're at with the climate crisis. Like, we need bold solutions, we need new ideas, and this is a tried and true program that we believe we should move forward with. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicole. Okay, we have a motion and a second.
I do
Vice
have a
President
couple
Weiser.
real quick remarks. I will be voting in support of this resolution, but I do want to just make a couple quick statements about some overall safeguards that I hope that we as a community, a city, and a district will make sure that we're fighting for. I would really hope that we would make sure that there are safeguards in whatever the CCA or CCE looks like in its final product. I remember back in the day when electric bills were $8 a month. $12 a month was a big electric bill. I'm old enough to remember that. And then we were sold a bill of goods. The competition would actually help lower electric bills, like they were so exorbitantly outpriced as it was. Then the opposite happened. This so-called bill of goods we were sold has resulted in electric bills now that are anywhere from $200 to $400 a month. How I long for $12 a month for my electric bill again. So I want to make sure that in CCA or CCE that what is promised is truly delivered. And I hope that there are safeguards to make sure that this isn't another bait and switch. Second, I want to make sure that there are checks and balances, because we know that not all corporate players or energy creators are good actors. Enron comes to mind. We trusted corporations like Enron to do the right thing by the consumers, and I hope that we have verifiable green energy sources so that when we are led to believe that the energy we're receiving is generated from green sources, that in fact there's a way to verify and confirm that. Trust, but verify. And finally, I want to make sure that whatever does finally come of our community efforts here, that they support local green jobs that pay a livable wage with health care for folks' families. Because it's so important that we don't have a net result where the green energy is coming from West Virginia coal mines thinking it's coming from San Diego County green sources. So this is really, really important, and I know that everybody involved will make sure that in the final product that we're doing the best we can to make sure that what we're being told will become reality, that the electricity will truly be green, and that we'll be preserving and creating systems to support local green jobs that pay a living wage. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? If not, please vote. All right, thank you. Okay, and we are on to item I2, which is an information item and a progress report on our guiding principles for financial planning for student success. Superintendent Moore.
Actually, President Brewer, it's actually listed as an action item, and I would like to request to the board that we change it from an action item to an information item. As we do input, and we've been receiving input, we're continuing the input process, and what you see here is a draft that I would like to ask if the board would allow us to continue to receive input and suggest that we bring it back in December for action when we're continuing to get feedback. Some of the advisory groups, the advisory committees have not been able to fully vet and talk about it with their groups, and so I think we can bring it forward for action in the December meeting when we bring back when we have the first interim and include the principals there. But what you have here is progress. And
so let me just, do we have consensus on the board to accept this as yours? Yeah, great, thank you.
Yes.
Great.
Okay, thank you.
Technically, do we need to make a motion to table it to December, or?
No, you can consider it tonight and then agree to reconsider it at a later date with a vote at that time.
Thanks. Okay.
So I'll proceed with it as an action, as an information item, and what you can see is that we've made some progress with some input that we've received from stakeholders. Specifically, the biggest change would be the fifth budgeting principle that we added, number 5, which is about using creative and entrepreneurial approaches to seek funds through legislative advocacy at the local, state, and federal levels, along with grants, partnerships, and other funding mechanisms to support each and every student. And this came from several stakeholder groups that we engaged in dialogue, looking at the principals to say, hey, how about putting something in your principles that you'll continue to look for ways to generate revenue? And the advocacy that we need to do, and legislative advocacy and other grants or other programs, that is part of healthy organization and fiscal management, is that we'll continue to look for entrepreneurial approaches to bring revenue into the district. So that's a whole new number 5. And then we added local control accountability plan into bullet number 1, or the first budget principle. And then we also added, getting more feedback, the statutory planning timelines for planning for next year's budget, because as we go through budget guidelines and principles for budgeting, it's really clear to us that many stakeholder groups don't always understand the timelines and what's required by Ed Code, what's required by the state, what's required by the district. And this graphic here is a draft for consideration so folks can understand what timelines we're required to, that are statutory, that we're required to follow. And we think that people need to understand the points in time in which decisions need to be made and input processes along the way, when you can make input when there's time to actually make changes. So that was another addition in the evolving creation of our financial guidelines here and guiding principles.
Great. Vice President Beiser?
Yeah, I would really like to take this opportunity to thank Superintendent Cindy Martin, because she's the one that said, hold on, time out. We have not heard from all our community stakeholders. And I really appreciate that. That she is wanting to make sure that there's a very vigorous community process, that we're giving everybody, all the different folks, the opportunity to chime in, and I really appreciate that. Thank you, Superintendent Martin.
That wasn't my question in terms of discussion. It doesn't seem like we've had enough time for the
Is your mic on?
It doesn't seem like we've had enough time for the groups to weigh in on it, and that's the reason why we wanted to continue it in the beginning.
Especially the groups that have meetings with executive boards and agendizing something and then getting feedback, and they have more formal processes for feedback, that we wanted to make sure they had time. So
Yeah, they can't just talk about it at a meeting. They need to agendize it and let people know that that's up for discussion. Yeah.
Dr. Evans?
Yeah, I think like you said, you can bring it back in December when we're looking at the first interim. At the same time, there's going to be a lot going on in the meantime, and I think the fourth principle here about regularly and openly having conversations with the public about the fiscal projections and engaging the stakeholders, that principle obviously should be in effect, which is part of this whole process.
That's what we're doing right now,
Starting
actually.
immediately and right now. And I guess the other part that I had mentioned sometime before was, in terms of these timelines, we can look at here what the state and the Ed Code and the district require in terms of planning, but it's also important for people to realize at what point they can give meaningful input into the process. Because a lot of times the input comes way down the road when a lot of decisions by statute and everything else already have to be made, and people are not necessarily happy about it. And that really, a lot of that is really October, November, and December before we come out with the governor's projections in terms of people being to weigh in on what their priorities are through the surveys and different meetings and things they're going to do. All that input is really important during this time period, because when it comes down to the final technical list of exactly where adjustments are going to be in the budget, that's a very technical, financial, and legal point, but what's important is that the stakeholders know that those priorities were paid attention to leading up to that, and that's really during October, November, and December.
And that's what this graphic is intended to show, the timelines of when that happens.
Right, although it doesn't show, in terms of stakeholder input, I know you have some plans in terms of surveys, meetings, the ongoing LCAP process, but I think it just needs to somehow be disseminated to everybody that this is your chance to speak up during these next 2 or 3 months. When we come up with final budget decisions, of course, that's going to be released to the public and people are going to be able to comment, but it's much more important right now at this point.
Great, yeah, Dr. White.
The whole piece about grants, because you can't just apply for a grant today and get funding tomorrow, but long-term, I don't know if we have grant writers or funding proposals out there or what, but we need to consider that also as a source of revenue. Thank you.
Right.
Great, okay, well, thank you. That was an information item.
That's right.
Right, we'll move to.
I don't get to
back
speak.
work.
I don't get to speak.
Did you fill out a speaker slip for this
I
item?
did. I did. On I-2. I did. Yes,
we
I
have
did.
it?
I did.
Okay, all right, go ahead. You've got 3 minutes. Go.
Well, I looked at this, and it says that you're going to make financial decisions with a disciplined approach, and that's common sense. And one of the things that needs to be looked at is a dependence audit. It needs to be done every year. Any government entity does a dependence audit every year. You guys do it every few years, and the last one resulted in $4 million in savings. The problem is that the employees that were taking advantage of benefits they didn't qualify for didn't have to pay it back. That was wasted money that should have gone to our children. And the other one is this illegal practice of foundations buying extra staff at schools. That shouldn't be done at by foundations. That should be done at HR and determining what is equitable, what our school sites need, and part of position control. But having foundations pay for extra staff for their schools, that's not how you should be running this school district. That puts the taxpayers on the hook for more retirement and more costs, and it's not fair to employees that get pushed out of the seniority. They get bumped in seniority, they get bumped when there are layoffs because foundations decided they wanted extra staffs at their schools. That needs to be looked at. Nobody can provide me the district policy for foundations paying for staff, but it happens. As I talk to the foundations, I look at what they're doing, and I'm at their meetings, and they're always talking about, well, we're going to buy extra staff. So when you're making decisions with a disciplined approach, it has to be with the school district making the decisions about which employees work at school sites, not just throwing in extra employees here and there because that's what some parent group wants. That's not how you do it in government.
Okay, we pulled items J7, 25, and 26 from the consent agenda, and I believe, Citizen, you would like to speak to each one of these items.
The first one is J7, ISL football, soccer. And it states in the contract that for good and valuable consideration, they're going to be providing soccer camps. And you should not be approving this. You're providing one company unfettered access, marketing and solicitation advantages that other local businesses do not get. There are people in San Diego that run little soccer camps that have these businesses to provide to our community, and they don't get the advantage of walking onto the school campus and being able to use our school facilities and solicit parents for their customers. What you're saying is you're going to create quality of life issues in neighborhoods. You're going to tear up the fields that we've paid for with our property taxes. You don't have the money to maintain the facilities now, and you're turning it over to the exclusive use of this one group. They're going to offer a 20% discount for all the customers that they can attract because they have access to these kids. This isn't coming from their heart to give these little free soccer camps. It's a marketing gimmick, and it doesn't belong in a school. There are companies that don't get to use our taxpayer facilities that this company is going to get because they offer a 20% discount and because they offer free soccer clinics. Why don't they just do that? If they're serious, why don't they just say, we're going to offer free soccer clinics, period. Instead, they want to use our fields on the weekends, and this opens the door for one company to undercut local businesses and other services, and that's not right, and you shouldn't have any part to do with it. And why Scott Guisti brought this forward, I have no idea, but I'm going to start digging through the emails to find out who's got a buddy at ISL football soccer so that they can use our district facilities and bring all this traffic and noise every Saturday because this company is making money. Okay? They're going to collect money from all these kids. And wow, they're going to give one free scholarship. One free scholarship in a school district that's about 65% free and reduced lunch. This does not deserve to be approved, and it was a badly considered proposal.
Okay, can we get a motion on item J7?
So moved.
Do you have a second? I will second. We've got a motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, please vote. Okay, item J25.
Okay, so I looked at the HR report, and I see that people are getting their step and column raises. Teachers are getting about a 2% raise. But what this report doesn't show is how Cindy Martin cut the salaries of classified people. It shows one salary, but it doesn't show that these people had their pay cut by, what, 14 days? And that's a very sad commentary on the way this school district is being run. That's it. That's my comment.
Okay, can we get a motion on item J25? Do we have a motion?
I'm trying to understand because I don't see the
It's about
comments
CLAD.
pertaining to
J25 is about
the...
CLAD. She meant J24.
Are you speaking to
which, I was
24?
confused about which number is it?
She meant 24.
Okay, well, we've already approved item J24.
24. She's talking about 24, and I'm looking at 25, which has to do with
It's
cross-cultural
about CLAD.
language academic development.
Yeah.
Can I go into I-26,
Well, can we
J26?
first get a motion on item J25? Second? Please vote. Okay, item J26.
Oh, and this is to approve Apple in buying more technology. And I don't understand this, because Martin cut the IT staff, and there's nobody to take care of the equipment. And when there are problems, there are no employees to go help people fix it when they run into jams. So it doesn't make any sense for you to be buying equipment that you can't maintain and keep operational. And one of the issues with you guys is you don't think long term. When you cut all these people, you cut all the workers, you cut the people that do the job. And so now you're going to buy all this equipment, millions of dollars of equipment, and it sits in boxes in schools. It's sitting in boxes in schools because there's nobody to install it and there's nobody to start running it. Teachers don't know what to do if it doesn't start working. So you really need to consider this stuff before you do things like this. What you guys did last year to classify and cutting the hundreds of people that you cut hurt the schools, not just in the technology area where there are no people, but in all the other areas. And it's just a really sad commentary on the value that you guys place on your employees.
Okay, can we get a motion on item J26?
So moved.
Second.
Please vote.
I'll just
Oh,
make
go
a
ahead.
comment.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
just to point out that this is up to $5 million, so that there will be staff discretion in terms of what is needed up to that amount, not automatically spending that amount.
Okay, please vote. Thank you, Dr. Evans. Okay, that concludes the agenda. Do we have any other non-agenda public testimony? We do not. We are adjourned. Thank you.